Chapter 477. Boom. He took a step forward, swung the rib bone, and smashed it at a blackstone ape. This blackstone ape had the strength of a 7-star combat emperor. Seeing this, it roared angrily and punched the rib bone. Bang. Crack. Its millstone-sized fist shattered on the spot, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. The intense pain made it howl miserably. Its huge body was blasted away, and the few blackstone apes behind it could not dodge in time. They were also sent flying, spitting out blood from their mouths. The other blackstone apes looked at the rib bone in Qin Feiyang's hand in shock. Ayo! All of a sudden, another wail of anguish rang out. An 8-star combat emperor blackstone ape was also sent flying by Lu Xingqian. How could this be? What bone is that? The monkeys were shocked and could not help but stop in their tracks, looking at the 2 rib bones in fear. The ape that lost its arm roared. Don't be afraid of them, attack. Roar. The monkeys' eyes were fierce, and they once again charged at the 2 of them. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian were not afraid at all. They held the rib bone in their hands and fought bravely in all directions, looking like they would kill any god or Buddha that stood in their way. The apes were constantly sent flying, some flying into the distance, and some smashed into the forest below. Rumbles and angry roars were incessant. However, even with the rib bone in their hands, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian were also riddled with injuries. After all, there were too many blackstone apes, and they were all very strong. Sometimes, it was impossible to dodge. As long as they were hit by a punch, they would lose half of their lives. Fortunately, they were both alchemists and did not lack supreme-grade healing pills. The 2 of them cooperated quite well, and they fought their way out. The forest and mountains below were already in ruins and dyed red with blood. Qin Feiyang sent a blackstone ape flying and shouted in a low voice, "Don't fight, let's go." Although they had fought their way out of the encirclement, none of the blackstone apes died. They were only seriously injured. Moreover, most of the apes were still full of energy and were completely unharmed. Most importantly, the blackstone apes continued to rush out from the forest below. These were all fresh troops. If this were to continue, the 2 of them might really die here. Whoosh! The 2 of them flew away without looking back. Lu Xingqian said, "If these bones could recover automatically like when we entered the abyss, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. One must know how to be content with what one has. It's already a great help that it can automatically wake up at the critical moment," Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingqian was stunned. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Brother Qin is right. I was too greedy. Humans, you won't be able to escape today. If you know what's good for you, then obediently accept your death. Otherwise, it won't be so easy for you to die later. The group of monkeys chased after him relentlessly, their vicious auras overflowing the heavens. Lu Xingqian's eyes darkened. We can't go on like this. Because they didn't know what other ferocious beasts were lurking ahead. Roar. Before his voice faded, accompanied by a series of earth-shaking roars, another group of blackstone apes charged out from the forest ahead. Humans, where are you going? As soon as the group of apes appeared, they rushed towards the 2 of them. Damn it! Qin Feiyang was extremely angry. How many monkeys were hiding in the forest? Bang! Bang! With a wave of his hand, he took out another rib and grabbed one in each hand. Following closely, he took the lead and swooped down. Like a human-shaped tyrannosaurus, he crazily fought with the group of monkeys. The apes were constantly blasted away. Their blood was like a waterfall, dyeing the void and the earth red. Die. But suddenly, a 9-star combat emperor blackstone ape attacked him from behind. The pitch-black fist seemed to be cast from black iron. Before it even got close, the terrifying force made Qin Feiyang feel as if he was in the abyss. His whole body was cold. Don't even think about it. Lu Xingqian saw this from behind and rushed forward. He raised his rib and smashed it on the head of the blackstone ape. Ow! With a painful howl, the blackstone ape's head burst open on the spot. Its body was like a meteorite, smashing into the depths of the earth below. But it was not fatal. Because it had 3 heads, it was equivalent to having 3 lives. Unless one directly smashed its heart or all of its heads, everything would be in vain. Thank you. Qin Feiyang thanked him, but his face suddenly changed. He hurriedly shouted, "Get out of the way!" Because behind Lu Xingchen, there was also a blackstone ape that wanted to sneak attack Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen heard Qin Feiyang shout, and stepped out without hesitation. At the same time, Qin Feiyang rushed towards the blackstone ape, raised his rib and swept towards the blackstone ape's legs. Crack! 2 thick legs were shattered on the spot. The ape screamed, lost its balance, and fell into the forest below. "We can't be so passive. Let's kill it first and see if we can intimidate them," Lu Xingchen roared. He swooped down and landed on top of the ape. He smashed 3 of its heads at lightning speed, and it died on the spot. Roar! However, this move not only did not have a deterrent effect, but also made the monkeys go crazy. They beat their chests and stomped their feet, roaring angrily. Their pitch-black eyes quickly turned red. Not good. Qin Feiyang's heart sank. There were too many blackstone apes. It was impossible to kill them all. It seemed that they could only retreat first. But Lu Xingchen was another problem. Qin Feiyang was very worried about letting Lu Xingchen go to the castle. But it did not seem right to leave Lu Xingchen alone. After all, the 2 of them were now standing on the same boat. "You hurt my people. You deserve death." Suddenly, an angry shout rang out. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingchen were shocked as they looked towards the direction of the voice. The angry shout came from the top of a mountain in front of them. Boom! A terrifying ferocious aura surged. Next, a huge creature flew out from the top of the mountain and entered their line of sight. Immediately, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingchen's pupils contracted. It was also a blackstone ape, but it had 4 heads on its shoulders. There was no doubt that it was a war master. The group of monkeys surrounding the 2 of them also began to roar excitedly. Qin Feiyang did not dare to hesitate any longer, and brought Lu Xingchen into the castle. What a joke! A war master level blackstone ape had an even more terrifying defensive power. It was definitely a master that could not be provoked. Where is he? Seeing the 2 of them suddenly disappear without a trace, the monkeys scanned their surroundings in bewilderment. After a moment of silence, the place was drowned out by the angry roars of beasts. Inside the castle, hearing the vicious beast roar, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingchen were both terrified. Lu Xingchen swept his gaze across the castle and sighed. "Brother Qin, if not for this castle of yours, I'm afraid that we would have been in deep trouble today." Fatso sneered. "Lu Xingchen, can you stop acting in front of us?" Lu Xingchen was slightly startled. He looked at Fatso and asked suspiciously, "Brother Fatty, what do you mean by that?" Fatso sneered. "We were the ones who destroyed the Lu family. Would you give up on revenge so easily?" Lu Xingchen sighed deeply and said, "Brother Fatty, I really wanted to kill you guys in the past, but it's different now." "How is it different?" "We all understand your personality, so don't act here. Just say it. What exactly do you want to do?" Fatso said impatiently. "Why don't you believe me? I'm someone who has died once. I've seen through many things. Hatred will only make people lose themselves. There's a good saying, if revenge breeds revenge, will there ever be an end to it? I don't care if you believe me or not, I've really let it go, and I don't want to talk about the past anymore." Lu Xingchen sighed. Fatso sneered. What else did he want to say? Qin Feiyang said, "All right, since Lu Xingchen said so, there's no need to harp on it. Hurry up and cultivate." Fatso pursed his lips and looked at Lu Xingchen. "Don't let Fat Lord find out that you have bad intentions, or you'll die a horrible death." Lu Xingchen said, "Time will prove everything." "All right, let's wait and see." Fatso snorted, then closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He looked at Lu Xingchen and said, "Give me the rib." Lu Xingchen did not hesitate, and there was no greed in his eyes. He directly handed the rib to Qin Feiyang. This action made Qin Feiyang quite puzzled. Had this Lu Xingchen really turned over a new leaf? Putting away the rib, Qin Feiyang said, "Go find a place to cultivate, but don't go near that altar." Lu Xingchen looked at the altar and nodded. "I know what to do." "That's good." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, "Do you have any plans next?" "The black stone ape is so ridiculously strong. What other plans can there be?" Lu Xingqian pursed his lips and smiled bitterly. The most important thing now is to improve our strength. Qin Feiyang said. I have the same idea. I am now a 5-star combat emperor. Once I break through to 6-star combat emperor, with a superior battle art, it won't be difficult to deal with the black stone ape. It's the same for you. As long as you break through to 5-star combat emperor, with a perfect battle art, you will be able to sweep through the monkeys. The only thing we have to worry about now is that War Master Realm Monkey King. Lu Xingqian was worried. Qin Feiyang also fell silent. This canyon was unimaginably terrifying. If they continued to walk like this, who knew what kind of terrifying beasts they would encounter? The future could be said to be bleak. Phew. He let out a long breath and said, We will cross the bridge when we get there. Let's cultivate first. Lu Xingqian nodded, sat cross-legged in a corner, and closed his eyes to cultivate. Qin Feiyang also walked to the altar, opened the iron box, turned to the second page, and continued to copy the 8th stroke of the battle formula. Spirit State. The Palace Lord's Mansion. The Palace Lord sat by the pond fishing. Wang Hong and the other commanders stood behind him, frowning as if they were thinking about something. A moment later, the Palace Lord asked without turning his head. What's wrong? You don't dare to make a decision? My lord, I admit that Qin Feiyang's words are reasonable, but it is not a small matter to destroy the ruins. I think we should ask the current emperor. Wang Hong bowed and said. I also agree with Wang Hong's suggestion. After all, the ruins have existed since the beginning of the Great Qin Empire. If they wanted to destroy it, the emperor would have already given the order. But no matter if it was the current emperor or the previous emperors, they all left it alone. This means that there is something else going on. Moreover, we have never been to the ruins, so we don't know the real situation there. We can't completely trust Qin Feiyang's words. Third young Master Chao said. Chapter 478. Don't worry about that, Qin Feiyang is telling the truth. Because Shuang'er has also been to the ruins. Not long ago, this old man went to ask her, and she said the same thing as Qin Feiyang. The mansion master laughed. Wang Hong said, Even so, we still have to ask the current emperor. The emperor is the supreme ruler. How can this old man see him just because he wants to? The mansion master laughed bitterly. The 9 commanders fell silent. Although the old man was the ruler of the spiritual state, he did not have the qualifications to meet the emperor on his own initiative. He had to be summoned by the emperor. And every 10 years, the emperor would only summon him once. It had only been 8 years since the last time he met the emperor, which meant that he would have to wait another 2 years. The mansion master pondered for a moment, then sighed. We'll talk about this in 2 years. Wang Hong and the others nodded. This was the only way. The mansion master said. One more thing, this old man has already dismissed Zhao He from his position as commander. Do you have any suitable candidates? This? The 9 commanders pondered. Suddenly, Wang Hong's eyes lit up and said, I think Yan Nanshan can be the commander. This old man has seen Yan Nanshan's performance during this period of time. He is indeed a talent. But he is now the law-enforcing elder of the temple. We can't possibly snatch him away from the temple, right? If we really do that, that little girl will definitely come to this old man every day to reason with me. So it's not feasible. The mansion master said. The little girl he was talking about was the grand hall master of the temple. Then let's choose Fan Jian. Although he has helped Qin Feiyang many times, this also proves that he has a unique vision and can distinguish between good and evil. Wang Hong said. Shui Huiyan said. You're right, but he has only just stepped into the War Master realm. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to take on such a great responsibility. You underestimate him too much. Yesterday, I interrogated him. With the help of Qin Feiyang, he has already opened the 5th level of the Gate of Potential. With his current talent and potential, I believe that it won't be long before he will not only catch up to us, but also surpass us. At that time, even we can only look up to him. Wang Hong laughed bitterly. The 5th level. The eyes of Shui Huiyan and the others trembled. The door of potential had always been a legend. Not to mention the 5th level, they couldn't even open the 1st level. This Qin Feiyang is really scary. It seemed that he had to get closer to Qin Feiyang in the future. The manor head pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "All right, Fan Jian it is. Wang Hong, go and inform him." "Yes." Wang Hong bowed in response, and then he transformed into a flowing light that flashed towards the prison. When Fan Jian found out, he was extremely excited and could not calm down for a long time. In the past, he didn't even dare to think about the position of commander because it was an unattainable existence. But who would have thought that he would actually sit in this position now? And all of this was because of one person, Qin Feiyang. If it wasn't for this person, he would probably be an insignificant prison guard for the rest of his life. He had made the right choice when he chose to help Qin Feiyang. Time flew by. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Boom. On this day, Qin Feiyang's arm trembled, and a bright light gushed out from his fingertips. At the same time, his aura rose crazily. In less than 3 breaths, he suddenly became a 5-star combat emperor. Lu Xingqian opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. What's going on? For the past 2 months, Qin Feiyang had been standing there writing something. He didn't even see him cultivate, so how did he break through? And so quickly? Phew. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, and his eyes shone with rays of light. That was desire. Just one more stroke, and he would be able to master the battle formula. At that time, his combat strength would undoubtedly rise to another level. I'm really looking forward to the appearance of the next divine formula. He muttered to himself, and the light in his eyes dimmed. He turned his head and looked at Lu Xingqian and said, "When can you break through?" Lu Xingqian shook his head and said with a wry smile, "I can't compare with you, but it will be soon. However, I can't guarantee how long it will take." "Then let's continue," Qin Feiyang said and turned back to copy the 9th stroke. Originally, he wanted to go out and explore the situation. However, he couldn't be at ease leaving Lu Xingqian alone in the ancient castle. Because now, the white-eyed wolf was unconscious. Fatso, Lu Hong, Lin Yi, Luo Qianxue, and the pangolin were no match for Lu Xingqian. Although Lu Xingqian was very easygoing now, what if he had ulterior motives? What if he was unfavorable to Fatso and the others when he left the ancient castle? Therefore, it was better to take precautions. Another 2 months passed. Lu Xingqian finally broke through to the 6-star combat emperor. However, after 2 months of copying, Qin Feiyang was only able to copy half of the 9th painting. This made him feel very helpless. Whether it was the return formula or the battle formula, the last stroke required a lot of battle chi and time. Closing the 6-word formula and closing the iron box, Qin Feiyang took a few battle chi pills and sat cross-legged to recover his battle chi. In less than half an hour, his essence chi and spirit returned to their peak state. Qin Feiyang got up, looked at Lu Xingqian and smiled faintly. "Are you ready?" Lu Xingqian smiled and said, "Attack at any time." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and appeared in the dense forest with Lu Xingqian. Nearby, there was a group of blackstone apes. Some were hunting. Some were lying on the ground, or resting on stones, or branches of big trees. Some were playing in the jungle. Someone's aura. But when Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian appeared, all the blackstone apes locked onto them in an instant. "It's you guys. You haven't left yet. You really don't know what's good for you." Boom. Suddenly, all the blackstone apes nearby had an astonishing murderous look in their eyes as they madly rushed towards the 2 of them. Lu Xingqian frowned and asked, "Should we kill them?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the group of apes, his gaze rather gloomy, and shook his head. "We can't kill them, otherwise that Monkey King will definitely pester us." Whoosh! The 2 of them rushed out of the jungle. The group of apes also chased up into the sky, filled with hostility. "Ignore them. Before the Monkey King comes out, let's quickly search this area and see if there are any suspicious things," Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Without any hesitation, he used the phantom steps and constantly flashed in the air, leaving behind afterimages. Lu Xingqian also used mysterious steps and sped towards the other side. "Stop them." Blackstone apes appeared from all directions. But today was different from the past. Qin Feiyang's current speed and strength were completely on par with the 9-star combat emperor. As long as he didn't fight head-on, No matter how many Blackstone apes there were, they wouldn't be able to cause any actual harm to him. He was like a loach, shuttling through the group of apes. The sky was filled with his phantoms. Many of the apes thought that they had attacked him, but in the end, they only attacked his phantoms. This was also the terrifying part of the phantom steps. Every phantom could be passed off as the real thing. Before the phantom dissipated, it was difficult to tell whether it was the real body or not. Qin Feiyang dodged while carefully searching. Compared to Qin Feiyang, Lu Xingqian's situation was not good. Although his speed was comparable to the 9-star combat emperor, there were no phantoms. The Blackstone apes that were chasing him could always lock onto him. A Blackstone ape roared, "Don't worry about that person. Let's get rid of him first." More than half of the Blackstone apes that were chasing Qin Feiyang immediately turned around and surrounded Lu Xingqian. Only less than half of the apes were left. They were pestering Qin Feiyang. "These guys are quite smart," Qin Feiyang muttered. He didn't care about Lu Xingqian. He took the opportunity to quickly search. At the same time, he could also see how capable Lu Xingqian was. Lu Xingqian ran while scanning the Blackstone apes around him. Now he couldn't care less about searching, because he was surrounded by danger several times. "Human, you can't escape." A few Blackstone apes at the back bared their teeth. Their eyes were filled with terrifying ferocity as they pounced on Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian flashed and retreated to the side. He roared, "Brother Qin, I can't hold on any longer. Hurry up." Before his voice died away, behind him, more than 10 Blackstone apes pounced on him fiercely. Armor of wind. Lu Xingqian's eyes darkened. Accompanied by a low roar, the power of wind emerged and condensed into an armor on his body. His speed had actually increased again. Although it didn't increase by a small realm, it had already surpassed a 9-star combat emperor. Swoosh. He took a step forward and quickly shuttled through the group of apes in front of him. Boom. But just as he was about to continue fleeing, a Blackstone ape suddenly rushed up and punched him in the back. This ape had the strength of a 9-star combat emperor. It had been eyeing Lu Xingqian for a long time in order to kill him. Crack. The power of one punch was terrifying. Lu Xingqian's armor of wind shattered on the spot. His whole body was blasted away and blood spurted out from his mouth. However, he quickly stabilized his body and continued to flee. He didn't look like he was seriously injured. Seeing this scene, the ape that attacked Lu Xingqian had a trace of surprise in its eyes. Qin Feiyang also noticed the situation here and couldn't help but be shocked. One must know, that Blackstone ape had definitely used all its strength. And Lu Xingqian was only a 6-star combat emperor. Even with the armor of wind protecting him, it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. The only explanation was that the armor of wind could not only increase his speed, but also had an extremely strong defensive power. Lu Xingqian shouted, "Brother Qin, are you done?" Qin Feiyang said, "Hold it for a while longer. Everyone come out and kill him." The ape that attacked Lu Xingqian roared. Roar. Accompanied by the deafening roars of beasts, the Blackstone apes continued to rush out from the forest below. In an instant, a dense pack of monkeys appeared in the void. In a blink of an eye, there were 400 to 500 of them, and they all had 3 heads. "Damn, are they trying to kill me?" Lu Xingqian's expression changed and he hurriedly said, "Brother Qin, I have to make a move, otherwise I will be killed later." Qin Feiyang said, "Just don't kill them." Boom. The group of monkeys swarmed forward, their aura surging and shaking the mountains and rivers. These were 400 to 500 combat Emperor Realm beasts. If it was anyone else, they would be scared out of their wits. The nervousness on Lu Xingqian's face was also undisguised. If he could kill them, he could crush a large number of them with a wave of his hand. Because most of the monkeys here were below the 8-star combat Emperor Realm. Chapter 479. You must control your strength well. Lu Xingqian grumbled. Whirlwind. He waved his hand and a hurricane appeared. It made an ear-piercing whistling sound and roared in all directions. Wherever it passed, the Blackstone apes were sent flying. So you have been hiding and cultivating for the past 4 months. But even if you have broken through to the 6-star combat emperor, you can't do anything. More than a dozen 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes dashed towards the hurricane. Their violent energy swept across all directions. Boom. The hurricane was forcefully crushed. Lu Xingqian's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. Lu Xingqian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the apes with a gloomy expression. He said angrily, "Don't go too far." One of the Blackstone apes said, "When I asked you to leave, you refused to leave. We really mean no harm. You have all seen it. After fighting for so long, have we ever harmed your lives? I don't think so. As for 4 months ago, we had no choice but to kill you because you forced us to. Why do you have to hold on to it?" Lu Xingqian frowned and said. The Blackstone ape said, "You cut off my arm. That is an unforgivable crime." Lu Xingqian looked at the ape in surprise and said, "What happened to your arm?" Qin Feiyang heard and turned to look at the ape. His pupils suddenly shrank. The arm that was cut off by Lu Xingqian 4 months ago had actually been restored to its original state? How could it be? Could it be that there were regeneration pills here? If there were, then there must be an alchemist here. Swoosh. Qin Feiyang used the phantom steps and landed beside Lu Xingqian in a few blinks of an eye. Lu Xingqian asked, "How is it?" Qin Feiyang said, "We have searched this part of the canyon and didn't find anything suspicious. However, these Blackstone apes are a little suspicious." Lu Xingqian nodded. The black storm in the abyss could crush everything. It was impossible for pills to fall from above. Then the only explanation was that someone was refining pills for these fierce beasts. "Let's try them," Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Then he suddenly attacked. Red Sword Qi appeared and turned into 3 fiery red sword shadows. Guthyuan sword technique slash. Following his low roar, 3 sword shadows whizzed towards an 8-star combat Emperor ape. "You still dare to be impudent?" The surrounding monkeys once again launched a ferocious attack. "Do you really think we're sick cats just because we don't show our might?" Tornado storm. Lu Xingqian raised his eyebrows and narrowed his eyes. The power of wind gushed out, and an astonishing tornado appeared in the blink of an eye. With him and Qin Feiyang as the center, it whistled in all directions. Immediately, those attacking apes were swept up one after another. Even the 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes were on the verge of collapsing in the raging wind. Qin Feiyang was surprised. The power of this tornado storm was actually infinitely close to a perfect battle art. This Lu Xingqian was indeed not a simple character. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang's 3 sword shadows also arrived with a whistling sound, cutting off the ape's arm as easily as crushing dry weeds. "Ayo!" The ape screamed on the spot. Then, Qin Feiyang nodded to Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian understood and waved his hand. The tornado storm exploded with a terrifying killing power. That wind blade was like a sharp blade. The arms of every Blackstone ape that was swept up were instantly cut off. Miserable howls resounded in all directions. Fresh blood spurted out like a fountain. In an instant, the tornado storm was dyed blood red, as if it was condensed from fresh blood. It roared in the void and was extremely terrifying. "Damn humans, if I don't kill you, the heavens will not tolerate it." Seeing this, those 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes all went berserk. "Wait!" Qin Feiyang hurriedly stretched out his hand and shouted. But those Blackstone apes turned a deaf ear. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he took out a regeneration pill with 2 pill veins, and said, "I have a pill that can help them repair their arms." "Who cares about your pill?" However, those Blackstone apes were not moved in the slightest. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, "It seems that there really is someone here. Kill. We can't be so passive anymore. At the same time, let's try to lure that person out." Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Qin Feiyang glanced at the crazy group of monkeys, gritted his teeth, and said, "Okay, do it." Boom. Ayo. Lu Xingqian waved his hands fiercely, and the power of the tornado storm burst out. For a moment, the apes that were swept up were chopped into pieces as if they were vegetables, and their blood dyed the mountains and rivers. "Bastards, all of you must die." Those 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes beat their chests and stomped their feet, full of grief and indignation. "Humph! It's your own fault for being stubborn. Who can you blame? Qin Feiyang snorted coldly and pointed his index finger in the air. Ultimate ruin. The invisible force was vast and boundless, like a torrent, instantly drowning those 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes. Immediately, their skin and flesh were lacerated, and their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The intense pain made them howl miserably. Humans, all of you deserve to die. An angry roar suddenly exploded. At the peak of the mountain ahead, the Monkey King swept out, bringing with it an earth-shattering ferocious aura, and broke through the air like lightning. With just you? Lu Xingqian sneered, and the tornado storm swept across the sky, rolling up those 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes. Roar! The wind blade was invincible, accompanied by painful howls. All the 9-star combat Emperor Blackstone apes were cut into pieces in an instant, and their blood dyed the void. That bloody scene was like the Azura hell, and it was appalling. Monkey King, we have already retreated again and again. I advise you not to be too greedy. If you insist on pestering us to the end, then don't blame us for being ruthless and killing all of your monkeys. Qin Feiyang shouted. Preposterous. You two humans are too arrogant. This emperor wants to see how you will slaughter this emperor's monkeys. The Monkey King was unable to restrain his anger, and the aura of a combat master was like a tsunami in the vast ocean, covering the sky and covering the earth, rushing towards the two of them. You'll regret it soon. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his index finger pointed continuously. Waves of invisible force, like a torrent of ferocious beasts, blasted towards the mountain below. At the same time, Lu Xingqian's ferocious nature erupted as well, and the tornado roared downwards with an astonishing force. Rumble, accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. The land within a 1-mile radius was instantly turned into ashes. It was unknown how many Blackstone apes were killed, and their blood splattered everywhere. You two are too much, too much. The Monkey King was furious, and the 8 eyes on its foreheads all turned blood-red, as if they were dyed in blood. Too much. Otherwise, if you insist on killing us, would we be so ruthless? Qin Feiyang said coldly. Cut the crap. Today either you die or I die. The Monkey King had completely gone mad. Its aura surged, imprisoning Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. The aura seemed to be squeezing them, and blood spurted out from all the pores on their bodies. Qin Feiyang would be better off. After all, he had opened the 3rd stage of the Gate of Potential, and had a certain degree of immunity to the aura. However, Lu Xingqian, who had not opened the Gate of Potential, was not immune at all. His internal organs were being squeezed by the aura, and were on the verge of bursting. However, this was only the beginning. The Monkey King took a few steps in the air, and its dustpan-sized hands surged with battle chi, slapping toward Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. Before the gigantic hands landed, the terrifying force caused Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian to tremble. Their skin was torn, and their bodies were drenched in blood. We can't take it head-on. Qin Feiyang's gaze was gloomy. Back then, the white-eyed wolf had almost been killed because he took Zhao He's attack head-on. Break for me. Qin Feiyang roared in anger, and the blood in his body boiled. Boom. He forcibly broke free from the aura's confinement, grabbed Lu Xingqian, and instantly disappeared without a trace. At the instant when the two of them disappeared, the Monkey King's palm arrived, and the void actually distorted. It was truly unbelievable. How powerful was that palm? If they were hit by it, the two of them would definitely be smashed into pieces. Bastard! If you have the guts, don't hide your head and tail. Come out now. The Monkey King's roar was like thunder, and its battle chi surged out in all directions like tidal waves. Boom! The ground below was directly blasted into a bottomless pit, and dust and smoke covered several miles of land. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian both had faces full of fear. Lu Xingqian said in a deep voice, "This monkey is too strong. If we don't break through to War Master, we have no chance of winning." War Master? Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed bitterly. Right now, he was only a 5-star war emperor, and was 4 small realms away from War Master. Breaking through to War Master in a short period of time was simply an unrealistic problem. As for Lu Xingqian, That was even more impossible. Without opening the door of potential, it would take even longer. Gradually, the commotion outside gradually calmed down. Qin Feiyang said, "It has already left." Lu Xingqian asked, "Then what do we do next?" Qin Feiyang said, "Let's go to the mountain peak where the Monkey King lives first." Lu Xingqian looked at him in shock. He actually took the initiative to go to the Monkey King's lair? Was this guy really not afraid of death? Why? Lu Xingqian asked. He really couldn't think of a reason to go to the peak of the mountain. For months ago, we blew up a lot of monkeys' heads, but today they've all recovered. And in these 4 months, we haven't heard any human voices. This means that the pill should be on the Monkey King. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingqian said, "So you suspect that the alchemist might also be at the peak of the mountain?" Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although it was only a suspicion, it was still necessary to confirm it. After all, they still didn't know anything about this. Lu Xingqian pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "All right, let's go to the peak of the mountain." The two of them took a top-grade alchemist and left the castle. The ancient castle was exposed to the outside and would sink on its own. Therefore, the place where they appeared now was inside the sinkhole. However, just as they appeared, a terrifying pressure enveloped them. The two of them raised their heads and saw the Monkey King standing above the deep pit, its eyes flashing with an astonishing ferocious light. Not good. The mystery of the ancient castle has been seen through by it. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. Although the ancient castle was heaven-defying, its flaws also gave him a headache. The first was that he couldn't see the situation outside, and could only rely on his ears to listen. The second flaw was that he couldn't move. Without these two flaws, not to mention the War Master, even an existence that surpassed the War Master wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Boom. Chapter 480. Swoosh. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened as he brought Lu Xingqian into the castle. If it keeps guarding outside, I'm afraid we'll be trapped here forever. Lu Xingqian said. In this way, not to mention finding Renduxing, even going to the peak of the mountain would be a pipe dream. Qin Feiyang said. It doesn't matter. We have a lot of resources on us. Let's see who can outlast the other. After saying that, he walked to the altar and continued to copy the 9th stroke of the battle formula. Now every minute and second was very precious. They couldn't waste it. Lu Xingqian looked at Qin Feiyang's back. His lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something. But in the end he didn't say anything. He also sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. The Monkey King had been waiting outside. It seemed that it wouldn't stop until it killed the two of them. But as time passed, the Monkey King began to get impatient. After waiting for a full month, it finally lost its patience and turned to leave, returning to the peak of the mountain. The next day, Qin Feiyang stopped copying and whispered, "It's been a month. It should have left." Swoosh. With a flash, he appeared at the bottom of the sinkhole. Seeing that the Monkey King had disappeared, he immediately entered the castle and closed the iron box. In this month of copying, the last stroke of the battle formula had been copied by more than half. He estimated that he would be able to master the battle formula in another month at most. He looked at the pangolin and said, "Don't be in a hurry to cultivate. Do me a favor." It had been 5 months since they entered the ruins. The cultivation of Fatso and the others were soaring crazily. The pangolin was the same. Now it had stepped into the War Emperor realm, and it was a 2-star War Emperor. Its speed was simply heaven and earth compared to before. The pangolin opened its eyes and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Lu Xingqian also opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, "Your strength is digging holes." The pangolin suddenly became angry and roared, "I'll say it again. Digging holes is not my strength." Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned and joked. "Then what's your strength?" The pangolin proudly said, "This king has many strong points. For example, fighting, 1 against 10 is no problem at all." Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He smiled and said, "Then you go and get rid of that monkey." "Ha." The pangolin laughed dryly and said, "It's better for you to handle such a small matter. Letting this king go is a bit overkill." "Shameless." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at it. He was too lazy to speak any more nonsense. He led the pangolin and Lu Xingqian into the deep pit. 2 people and 1 beast flew out of the deep pit and stood in the air above the forest. Qin Feiyang pointed to the mountain peak and said to the pangolin, "Dig there." "It's nothing." The pangolin chuckled and landed on the ground. It returned to its original form and began to dig. In less than 5 breaths, a huge black hole appeared on the ground. Qin Feiyang said to Lu Xingqian, "You go in first. Remember to hide your aura." Lu Xingqian swooped down and entered the black hole. After waiting for about 100 breaths, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light, and his index finger pointed 4 times in the air. Immediately, 4 invisible forces roared in 4 different directions and blasted into the mountains not far away. Boom! Accompanied by a series of loud noises, everything within a radius of thousands of meters was instantly turned into dust. At the same time, many black stone apes were splattered on the spot. Roar! On the mountain peak, the Monkey King's angry roar sounded. Following closely, Qin Feiyang saw a light shadow rushing out from the mountain peak and rushing in this direction. "Damn monkey, the good show is yet to come." Qin Feiyang sneered, turned in the air, and rushed into the black hole like lightning. At the same time as he entered the black hole, he waved his hand, and the battle chi spread in all directions. The entrance of the hole suddenly collapsed. The entrance of the hole was instantly submerged in mud. When the Monkey King rushed here and saw that Qin Feiyang was gone again, it immediately went crazy with anger. Inside the cave, Qin Feiyang restrained his aura and chased for about 100 breaths before finally catching up with Lu Xingqian and the pangolin. Lu Xingqian asked, "Did you fight with the Monkey King just now?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "What a joke. The Monkey King was so strong fighting with it, wasn't it courting death?" Lu Xingqian asked. "Then what was the commotion just now?" Qin Feiyang said, "I killed a few blackstone apes and sealed the cave entrance while I was at it." "Why did you kill them?" Lu Xingqian was puzzled. "Of course it's to lure the Monkey King out," Qin Feiyang said. "If the Monkey King was at the top of the mountain, even if they went over, they wouldn't dare to show up. And now, the Monkey King would definitely think that they were still hiding in the ancient castle, and would definitely wait for a period of time. During this period of time, they would have the opportunity to sneak to the top of the mountain." Lu Xingqian was secretly shocked. No matter what he did it flawlessly. Qin Feiyang's brain was indeed incomparable to that of ordinary people. The pangolin's digging ability was also unparalleled in the world. No matter how hard the stone was, it could directly dig a tunnel. Qin Feiyang looked curiously for a while and asked, "Pangolin, can you dig directly to the top of the mountain?" "Nonsense. I can dig it even with my eyes closed." The pangolin looked at him with disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled and didn't say anything else. About an hour later, the pangolin began to dig upwards. Another half an hour passed. The pangolin dug and suddenly dug out the ground, and light appeared again. 2 people and 1 pangolin rushed out and stood on a large stone, scanning the surroundings. This was indeed the top of the mountain. Around them there were rocks and weeds. Green ancient trees with luxuriant branches and leaves stood at the edge of the mountain like giant umbrellas. The pangolin's eyes suddenly focused and locked onto a certain place. It said in surprise, "Look, there's a cave there." "A cave?" Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian turned their heads and saw a pitch-black cliff 100 meters behind them. Moss had already grown on the cliff, and there were also green vines that crisscrossed and covered every corner of the cliff. And in the center of the cliff, there was a large cave entrance. The pangolin said, "Let's go in and take a look. Maybe there are some treasures." Treasures? Qin Feiyang didn't think much of it. This cave should be the Monkey King's cave residence. That alchemist was very likely to be inside. Just in case, you should go to the ancient castle first. Qin Feiyang looked at the pangolin and said, "All right, I'll continue to cultivate." The pangolin was also straightforward, because it knew that with Qin Feiyang here, even if there were treasures in the cave, it wouldn't have a share. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the pangolin into the ancient castle. Then he turned and walked to the side of a large tree at the edge of the mountain peak and looked down. Standing here, although he couldn't see the Monkey King, he could clearly feel its ferocious aura. Lu Xingqian walked to Qin Feiyang's side and said with a smile, "It really fell for it." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Let's go in and take a look." The two turned and walked to the front of the cliff. Lu Xingqian took a deep breath and whispered, "Be careful." Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Xingqian was about to enter the cave when Qin Feiyang glanced at the ground. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he pulled Lu Xingqian. "Wait!" The sudden change scared Lu Xingqian so much that he broke out in cold sweat. He whispered, "What's wrong?" "Look over there." Qin Feiyang pointed at the ground beside the cave. Lu Xingqian looked over, his eyes full of doubt. The ground was inlaid with some kind of black stone. After the erosion of time, it had become extremely broken. Some vines and dried leaves were crawling on the stone. There was nothing strange about it. Something was wrong. There was a piece of ground that didn't have vines, moss or dried leaves. This piece of ground was about 3 to 4 meters wide. Other places had vines, but this was the only place that didn't have vines. It didn't make sense. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes trembled and he said in a low voice, "If I'm not wrong, this should be where the Monkey King is sitting." "What?" Lu Xingqian turned pale with fright. If that was the case, wouldn't the Monkey King be the guardian of this cave? He originally thought that the cave was the Monkey King's cave. He didn't expect that it was only guarding this cave. What was hiding in this cave? The two stood in front of the cave, not daring to take another step forward. Their eyes were flickering. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Who cares, let's go in." "Yes, how can we catch tiger cubs without entering the tiger's den?" Lu Xingqian nodded. The two of them mustered up their courage and walked into the cave. There was no light inside, and it seemed a little gloomy. Qin Feiyang spread out his big hands. Flaming battle qi emerged, illuminating the place. It turned out that this was only a passage. The passage was slanted downwards. The two of them walked down carefully. Zoom. They could feel that the air had turned cold. As they went deeper, the temperature became colder. After about 10 breaths, a little crystal light suddenly appeared in front of them. They didn't see wrong. It was not the light of fire, nor was it the light of night pearls or moonstones. It was like a crystal emitting light in the darkness. Then, the two of them held their breaths and walked over silently. The temperature was also getting colder and colder. Their eyebrows and hair were already covered with a layer of frost. It was so cold that it made them tremble. As they got closer, the crystal light became more obvious. After a few breaths, the two of them finally saw the glowing object clearly. It turned out that it was ice. They saw an ice cave more than 10 meters in front of them. It was full of ice. When they walked here, the cold air attacked them, making them feel a piercing pain. The two of them gritted their teeth and walked to the ice cave, looking at everything in surprise. It wasn't snowing here, and the weather outside wasn't cold, but how could there be an ice cave? And this ice didn't show any signs of melting. This was obviously against common sense. And even if it was ice, it couldn't emit light in the dark. Could it be that this wasn't ordinary ice? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes focused and looked into the depths of the ice. There was actually another blurry figure inside. Were his eyes playing tricks on him? Lu Xingqian also noticed it and felt very incredulous. The two of them rubbed their eyes at the same time and looked again. The blurry figure was still there. They weren't playing tricks on them. It really existed. That figure was about 1.78 meters tall. From the outline, it should be a person. Chapter 481. I once heard that some powerhouses would use battle aura to seal themselves and wait for others to rescue them in order to avoid being hunted down by enemies, or on the eve of their death. Brother Qin, do you think that the person inside the ice is an expert like that? Lu Xingqian pondered for a while and whispered. Qin Feiyang was surprised and turned to look at Lu Xingqian. Who did you hear this from? What Lu Xingqian said did exist. But this was a secret. There was a historical book in the imperial palace that recorded it. However, this historical book was placed in the emperor's study. As for the emperor's study, Even the former Qin Feiyang didn't dare to barge in without the emperor's permission. Therefore, in the current Great Qin Empire, there were definitely no more than 10 people who knew about this. However, Lu Xingqian actually knew so much about it. Although he was a supreme-grade alchemist, he was only from the spiritual state. It was really strange. Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed and he smiled. I only said that I heard it by chance, and I don't know who this person is. There's a problem. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. This Lu Xingqian was definitely not as simple as he seemed on the surface. However, he did not show any doubts and shook his head. I have never heard of these things before, so I don't dare to jump to conclusions. I see. It seems that this is just a rumor and can't be trusted. Lu Xingqian smiled faintly. Rumor? Qin Feiyang could not help but sneer in his heart. Lu Xingqian must have realized that he had let it slip, and wanted to cover it up. However, he did not know that it was purely a cover-up. Clang. Qin Feiyang did not say much and took out Chang Shui. Seeing Chang Shui, Lu Xingqian's eyes had a trace of fear. Brother Qin, before breaking the ice, you have to think carefully. There's nothing to consider. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and used the Chang Shui to lightly cut the ice. A crack immediately appeared. So sharp. Lu Xingqian retreated. Seeing that the Chang Shui could cut through the ice, Qin Feiyang waved the Chang Shui to break the ice. Bang. Not long after, a large piece of ice fell to the ground. Wait. As the ice fell off, Lu Xingqian's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly grabbed Qin Feiyang's arm. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. However, in the next instant, his expression changed drastically. Furthermore, he decisively retreated from the ice cave. His eyes filled with disbelief. As the piece of ice had fallen off, the layer of ice had become thinner, so the frozen figure could now be clearly seen. It wasn't a person, but a blackstone ape. If it was just an ordinary blackstone ape, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian would not be so shocked. What surprised them was that the blackstone ape inside the ice actually had 5 heads. This meant that this beast was in existence that surpassed the War Master. Lu Xingqian swallowed his saliva and said, I finally understand why those blackstone apes chased us away. This ape is the real Monkey King. Hurry up and leave. Qin Feiyang bellowed, turned around and ran outside without looking back. Lu Xingqian looked at the blackstone ape. A light flashed in the depths of his eyes, and he also turned around and left. However, before the two of them could reach the entrance of the cave, a terrifying might came from outside. Lu Xingqian said in a low voice, Not good, the Monkey King is back. Qin Feiyang immediately stopped, his heart in his throat. But fortunately, the Monkey King did not discover them and did not enter the cave. Lu Xingqian asked, What do we do now? Qin Feiyang said, We can only let the pangolin beast come out and dig a hole. With a wave of his hand, the pangolin beast immediately appeared. Bastard, you actually dare to barge in here. But just as the pangolin beast came out, the Monkey King outside roared. Following closely, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian felt that the Monkey King's aura had entered the cave and was rapidly approaching them. How did it discover us? Lu Xingqian was bewildered. Qin Feiyang also frowned, suddenly shook his head and laughed bitterly. It should be footprints. Lu Xingqian was slightly startled and could not help but laugh bitterly. Before entering the cave, they stopped at the entrance of the cave. It must have been at that time that they left their footprints on the ground. It was truly a mistake. The pangolin beast glanced at the two of them and said angrily, Hey, I say you two, can't you wait until we escape and then talk about this useless nonsense? We can't escape. Lu Xingqian shook his head. It was too late to dig a hole now. Unless they hid in the ancient castle again. But it was impossible to hide in there forever. Let's take a gamble. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and led Lu Xingqian and the pangolin beast into the ancient castle. Almost at the next moment, the Monkey King arrived at the place where they disappeared, but it did not stop and went straight to the ice cave. After the Monkey King disappeared, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian appeared out of thin air again. They concealed their auras in advance and rushed toward the entrance of the cave. Damn bastards, I'll kill you. In the depths of the cave, an angry roar exploded. The Monkey King hurriedly turned around and flew toward the entrance of the cave. Its speed is too fast, quickly hide. Lu Xingqian shouted in a low voice, and his face was somewhat pale. The Monkey King was completely enraged. If they were caught, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qin Feiyang did not dare to hesitate. He grabbed Lu Xingqian and entered the ancient castle again. The Monkey King chased out of the cave, but it did not see Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. It was instantly flustered and exasperated. Inside the ancient castle, Lu Xingqian sighed and said, "It seems that we are trapped here." Qin Feiyang felt the same. Now the Monkey King was on high alert. If they let the pangolin beast continue digging, it would definitely be discovered by the Monkey King. Because of the digging, there would be some noise. Hence, this method was no longer feasible. But it was not that there was no other way. That Monkey King that was sealed in ice must have sealed itself. According to ancient records, this kind of self-sealing could allow one to maintain their life. For example, if they sealed themselves 1,000 years ago and unsealed themselves 1,000 years later, they could continue to live. But there was a fatal flaw. Firstly, their cultivation would regress with the passage of time. This meant that their cultivation would drop bit by bit. Secondly, a large amount of fresh blood was needed to awaken the self-sealing Monkey King. If there was no fresh blood, even if you ruthlessly beat it or even killed it, it would not awaken. And this point was just right for them to make use of. As long as they got their hands on that frozen Monkey King, the Monkey King outside would definitely hesitate to attack them. However, this method was somewhat risky, because this way, it would definitely make the Monkey King even angrier. In the future, as long as they were still in this canyon, they would definitely not let them go. In fact, this was a gamble. And now, there seemed to be no other way. "Let's do it." Immediately, he told Lu Xingqian the plan. After listening, Lu Xingqian was slightly stunned and said in surprise, "Didn't you say that you don't know about self-sealing?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "I'm the same as you. It's just hearsay." Lu Xingqian said, "In that case, this might not be a rumor?" Qin Feiyang said, "I don't know if it's a rumor or not. I only know that we can't be trapped here. We have to take a gamble." Lu Xingqian pondered for a moment and nodded. "All right, it's rare to work with you. Today, I'll risk my life to accompany you. You're quite good at pretending." Qin Feiyang sneered secretly. He restrained his aura to the extreme and appeared in the passage with Lu Xingqian. Looking at the direction of the cave entrance, the two of them rushed toward the ice cave. When they arrived at the ice cave, Qin Feiyang directly took out the changshui and gently cut the ice. Right now, they couldn't make the slightest movement, because if they alerted the Monkey King, it would definitely keep guarding here. At that time, they would really be trapped here for the rest of their lives. But things didn't go as they wished. Whatever they wanted to do came true. The two of them clearly felt that the Monkey King's aura had entered the cave and was rapidly approaching them. "We can't dawdle like this anymore. Hurry up," Lu Xingqian growled. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. He grabbed the changshui and swung it like lightning. The friction between the changshui and the ice made an ear-piercing sound. The Monkey King immediately sensed it and roared, "Damn bastards, I won't forgive you." Qin Feiyang shouted, "Seal the passage." Lu Xingqian raised his head and waved. The power of the wind appeared and blasted forward. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, the soil and stones above the passage suddenly collapsed. Roar! The Monkey King roared. Its battle aura turned into a torrent, and the soil and stones in front of it were turned into ashes. "Faster!" Lu Xingqian roared. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy. Although the Monkey King was about to arrive, he didn't lose his mind and didn't panic. Pieces of ice were constantly being cut down. At this moment, the layer of ice was only half a foot thick. Boom! In less than 3 breaths, the Monkey King suddenly rushed out of the dust. Seeing Qin Feiyang's actions, its aura suddenly surged and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Crack! It was also at this moment that a piece of ice fell. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Changshui sank into the ice and shouted, "Withdraw your aura immediately, or I will pierce its heart." "How dare you?" The Monkey King shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang's arm slightly exerted force. The current layer of ice was only a finger thick. It couldn't stop Changshui at all. Seeing that Chang Shui's sharp blade was about to pierce the frozen monkey's chest, the Monkey King hurriedly withdrew its aura and said, Don't, let's talk. Swish. Seeing this, Lu Xingqian also quickly retreated to Qin Feiyang's side. Then the two of them looked at each other, and a hint of joy crept into their eyes. This time, it seemed that they had made the right bet. The Monkey King glanced at the two of them, and locked its eyes on Qin Feiyang. It said in a deep voice, "Withdraw your dagger, and I will let you go." Impossible. Qin Feiyang shook his head. That's right. If you really wait for us to withdraw our daggers, I'm afraid you will immediately kill us. Lu Xingqian said. A fierce light flashed in the depths of the Monkey King's 8 eyes at the same time. It said, I am a man of my word. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. Humph, we are not idiots. Your promise is useless to us. Then what do you want? Let me tell you, if you dare to touch a single hair on it, even if you escape to the ends of the earth, I will not let you go. The Monkey King said sternly. The fierce light in its eyes made people feel cold all over. Qin Feiyang said, Don't worry, as long as you cooperate with us, we will not hurt it. Chapter 482. Qin Feiyang said, Leave the cave and wait for us outside. Impossible. The Monkey King shook its head decisively. Qin Feiyang sneered. Do you think you have the right to refuse now? Anyway, I won't leave the cave. If I really kill it, you won't be able to live today either. The Monkey King said coldly. This guy is really difficult to deal with. Qin Feiyang frowned and said in a low voice, Lu Xingqian, help me get this monkey out. Lu Xingqian nodded and took out a dagger to cut the ice. Clang. But it only left a white mark. What's going on? Lu Xingqian was shocked. Qin Feiyang was also surprised. Whoosh. At this moment, the Monkey King's eyes flashed coldly. It suddenly rushed toward Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. Do you want to die? Qin Feiyang shouted and exerted some force with his arm. Accompanied by a crisp crack, Chang Shui's dagger penetrated deeper. Don't. The Monkey King hurriedly stopped. Its 8 eyes were full of panic. Back off. Qin Feiyang shouted. Okay. The Monkey King retreated to its original position. Lu Xingqian took out a battle sword and slashed at the ice with all his strength. Clang. In the end, the ice did not break. Instead, the battle sword broke. How can this be? Lu Xingqian was stunned. He gritted his teeth and took out a pitch-black broadsword. The blade flashed with a bone-piercing sharpness. He slashed with all his strength. The result was the same. The broadsword broke. Don't waste your energy. This ice is formed by the battle chi of this monkey. It has 5 heads. Its strength must be unfathomable. I'm afraid it's impossible for ordinary weapons to break through this ice. Qin Feiyang said. Then what should we do? Lu Xingqian asked. The Monkey King was glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey. Ordinary weapons wouldn't be able to break through the ice. Right now, if they wanted to take this monkey away, it would be extremely difficult. Now we have to get it away. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, his eyes flashing with a thoughtful light. Suddenly, with a thought, a rib appeared and said, Let's see if we can break the ice. Lu Xingqian grabbed it in his hand and stared hard at Han Bing. Crack. The ice immediately cracked. Can I? Lu Xingqian's eyes lit up. The Monkey King turned pale with fright. Don't move. Qin Feiyang stared at it. Lu Xingqian raised his hand and quickly smashed the ice. The Monkey King grew increasingly anxious. Boom. Seeing that the last piece of ice was about to be shattered by Lu Xingqian, it could no longer hold back and roared out. Do you want it to die? Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. Chang Shui penetrated a few inches and easily broke through the frozen monkey's fur. No. The Monkey King hurriedly withdrew his pressure, his eyes filled with panic. He was also extremely angry in his heart. Qin Feiyang said, Don't worry, I won't hurt it. When we leave the canyon, I will return it to you. The Monkey King roared. Can the words of humans be trusted? Qin Feiyang said. I, Qin Feiyang, will do what I say, but the premise is that you don't do anything to harm us. The Monkey King's eyes flickered. In the end, he gritted his teeth and nodded. All right, this emperor will believe you this once. Crack. The last piece of ice finally broke. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the ice monkey to the castle. The Monkey King's gaze changed as he hurriedly asked, "Where did you send it?" Qin Feiyang put away Chang Shui and said indifferently, "It is in my hiding treasure. If you dare to touch us now, it will immediately die." Lu Xingqian returned the rib to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Get out of the way, don't block our way." The Monkey King retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian looked at each other and carefully walked past it. Unexpectedly, the Monkey King did not make a move against them, but followed behind them all the way. After walking out of the cave, Qin Feiyang turned to look at the Monkey King and said, "If I'm not wrong, there should be other people here." The Monkey King frowned and asked, "Who are you looking for?" Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Ren Duxing's shadow appeared. "Has he been to the canyon?" The Monkey King raised his head and his pupils shrank slightly. But then, there was a trace of confusion in those 8 eyes. He shook his head and said, "I've never seen him, and in the past 10,000 years, the only humans who have entered this canyon are you." "You really haven't seen him?" Qin Feiyang frowned. The Monkey King nodded. Lu Xingqian asked, "Did we guess wrong?" "Don't jump to conclusions first. Although this is only a large canyon, it surrounds the entire ruins. You can imagine how long it is. There are many places to hide," Qin Feiyang said. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, feeling that something was wrong. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. It turned out that the Monkey King had unknowingly changed the topic. He looked at the Monkey King again and said in a deep voice, "Since there is no one else in the canyon, how did your monkeys recover their arms and heads?" The Monkey King said, "We black stone apes have the ability to repair ourselves. So that's how it is." Lu Xingqian suddenly understood. Qin Feiyang said, "It's not like that." "Huh." The Monkey King and Lu Xingqian both looked at him in surprise. Qin Feiyang looked at the Monkey King and sneered. "You're lying." The Monkey King said angrily, "When did this emperor lie?" Qin Feiyang said, "Although I have never seen the black stone apes before, I still know you guys very well. You don't have the ability to heal at all." "How do you know?" The Monkey King was extremely surprised. "Don't worry about how I know. Now I can already conclude that there must be someone here." "Where the hell is he? Tell me quickly," Qin Feiyang shouted. The Monkey King said, "There are really no other humans here." "Still not telling the truth, are you?" Qin Feiyang shouted angrily, and his patience gradually began to wear out. This emperor really doesn't know. This emperor has always been in this area, and I don't know anything about other places. If you insist that there are other humans here, you can return it to this emperor first and then look elsewhere. This emperor will definitely not stop you." The Monkey King said anxiously. Lu Xingqian whispered, "Looks like it won't say anything." "Then let's go, don't waste time," Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. And the two of them soared into the air and flew forward. The Monkey King hurriedly followed behind them. Lu Xingqian turned his head to look and frowned. It doesn't seem to be a solution for it to keep following us like this. We can't beat it, and we don't dare to kill it. What else can we do? We can only let it follow us. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he asked, "Is Ren Duxing an alchemist?" "Yes." Lu Xingqian nodded and said, "And Uncle Ren is also a top-grade alchemist. Of course, when I first stepped onto the path of alchemy, he was the one who guided me in alchemy." "What?" Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. Lu Xingqian frowned and wondered. "What are you thinking? Are you suspecting that Uncle Ren is refining pills for these beasts?" Qin Feiyang said, "This is not impossible." "Impossible? When Uncle Ren left back then, he didn't have the alchemy fire on him, so he couldn't refine pills at all." Lu Xingqian said flatly. Qin Feiyang said, "How many years have passed? He didn't have the alchemy fire back then, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have it now." "I still don't agree. Because if the person refining the pills is really Uncle Ren, when we fight with the black stone apes, he will definitely appear and meet us." Lu Xingqian shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, "I'm just guessing." In the jungle below, there were many black stone apes, who were eyeing the two of them covetously. There were even many apes that ran out to block the way, but they were all retreated by the Monkey King. An hour later, a desolate desert entered their line of sight. The two of them stood above the jungle and scanned the desert, their eyes full of surprise. How could this be? This was a verdant land, and that was a barren desert. Wasn't the change too big? Qin Feiyang turned to look at the Monkey King and said, "Why are there two different places?" The Monkey King shook his head and said, "I don't know either." Lu Xingqian frowned and said, "Haven't you been living here all the time? How can you not know?" "That's right. But I really don't know how this place was formed." The Monkey King said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then what's in this desert?" The Monkey King said, "I don't know either." "You don't know?" The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. A moment later, Qin Feiyang said, "Although there are unknown risks in the desert, there is also an advantage. There is no shelter, and the field of vision is wide, so it is easy to search." Lu Xingqian nodded. "Don't stop, fly directly. Also, pay attention to the cliffs on both sides and see if there are any caves." Qin Feiyang reminded. Then he used the phantom steps and rushed away without looking back. Lu Xingqian also used the mysterious steps and followed closely behind Qin Feiyang. Damn it! The Monkey King was so angry that he stomped his feet. He looked at the desert and hesitated for a moment, then finally followed. After flying for about an hour, and seeing that there was no danger, Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King gradually relaxed their vigilance. However, not long after, the yellow sand below began to roll, as if something was wandering in the sand. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King were surprised. "Could it be the sand whale?" Qin Feiyang shouted. "Don't look, let's go." The two of them were as fast as lightning. The rolling yellow sand below also began to move. In the end, it even set off a sand wave dozens of feet high, covering the sky and the earth. The injuries were extremely shocking. Lu Xingqian said in a low voice, "It seems that there are a lot of ferocious beasts lurking in the desert, and they have already targeted us." Qin Feiyang said, "Get ready to attack." There was no shelter. Although the field of vision was wide, flying high in the sky was also a big target. Crash! Suddenly, a sand wave suddenly rose, hundreds of feet high. Following closely, a giant python rushed out of the sand wave, opened its bloody mouth, revealing white fangs, and went straight for Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King. What kind of ferocious beast is this? Lu Xingqian's eyes widened. The giant python's body was hundreds of meters long, and it was as thick as a dustpan. Its whole body seemed to be cast from yellow sand. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't notice it at all when mixed with the yellow sand. Chapter 483. A Snake with Wings? Qin Feiyang also had a trace of suspicion on his face. He seemed to have seen it somewhere before. The giant python flapped its huge wings and was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the two. Their eyes trembled. Although this giant python was huge, its speed was not slow at all. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish," Lu Xingqian shouted coldly. The wind attribute battle chi emerged and condensed into a huge wind blade. It was his battle art, Gale Blade. Whoosh! The gale blade whistled and swept across the sky. In an instant it cut the giant python in half. Blood flowed like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. Boom! The giant python also wailed and chased down the desert below. With a loud sound, it smashed into the yellow sand. Hiss! It was also at this moment. A shocking scene appeared. 5 giant pythons rushed out of the yellow sand and rushed toward the giant python that was cut in half. In the end, it was eaten by the 5 giant pythons. They even eat their own kind? Lu Xingqian was stunned. Seeing this scene, the memories that Qin Feiyang had sealed away for a long time involuntarily surged forth. His body trembled and he said in a low voice, "I already know what they are." "What?" Lu Xingqian looked at him in surprise. "Flying sand python." Qin Feiyang said word by word. His tone was quite serious. Lu Xingqian showed a puzzled look. Flying sand python is the same as the blackstone ape. They are a species from 10,000 years ago. The blackstone ape's defense is amazing. and the flying sand python's speed is very fast. They can leave their opponents far behind in the same realm. Moreover, whenever their companions are killed, they will eat their companions' corpses. This behavior is not a habit. It is because eating their companions' corpses can increase their own strength. However, this does not mean that they are not united. On the contrary, they are very united. They will hunt down the executioner, who kills their companions until the other party is dead. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. I see. Lu Xingqian revealed a look of realization. But his heart was also very heavy. The surviving species from 10,000 years ago had the ability to reach the heavens. It seemed that this winged sand python was not easy to deal with. After the 5 winged sand pythons finished devouring the corpses of their companions, they raised their heads and looked at Lu Xingqian. Their huge eyes were filled with an ominous glint. Qin Feiyang said, They have their eyes on you. Lu Xingqian smiled bitterly. You should have told me earlier. Otherwise, I wouldn't have killed it. Even if you don't kill it, it will still kill you. After all, they are cold-blooded creatures. Let's do it. I reckon that in the desert, there should be a king similar to the Monkey King. Let's kill our way out before it appears. Qin Feiyang whispered. That being said, Qin Feiyang did not make a move. Seeing this, Lu Xingqian stared blankly and asked strangely, You're just going to watch the show like this? I have to keep an eye on the Monkey King. Only you can do it. Qin Feiyang glanced at the Monkey King behind them. If the Monkey King took advantage of this situation, they would all be finished. Sure enough, you're smart. Lu Xingqian gave him a thumbs up. But just as he was about to make a move, the 5 winged sand pythons directly drilled into the yellow sand and disappeared from their sight. What's going on? Lu Xingqian was a little confused. Don't worry about them. Let's go. Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice. Whoosh! The 2 of them sped up, like 2 bolts of lightning, violently sweeping through the void. Boom! Crash! But in less than 10 breaths. As far as the eye could see, the yellow sand was tumbling. Waves of sand surged violently. At this moment, the void was submerged by the yellow sand. Oh no, they're going to find help. Qin Feiyang exclaimed. Hiss! Sure enough. Among the sand waves, the winged giant pythons constantly swept out, densely packed. There were at least 300 of them. Seeing this, behind them the Monkey King's eyes flickered. Qin Feiyang shouted. You open the way, I'll cover the back. Okay. Lu Xingqian nodded. His battle chi surged and transformed into a terrifying hurricane that whistled forward. More than 10 winged sand pythons revealed a fierce look, simultaneously raising their giant tails to attack the hurricane. Boom! A loud explosion was heard, shaking the heavens and the earth. The hurricane was forcefully shattered. The giant tails of the winged sand pythons were also torn open, blood staining the sky. But it was obvious that they all had the strength of a 9-star combat emperor. Humans, you all deserve to die. One of the winged sand pythons shouted. In an instant, the surrounding winged sand pythons opened their wide mouths, spitting out a transparent saliva. Be careful. The saliva contains a strong poison. With our current cultivation, we'll definitely die if we touch it. Qin Feiyang shouted. But one must know that there were more than 300 winged sand pythons here. If they spat out saliva together, it would be enough to form a large waterfall. The 2 of them had nowhere to run. Lu Xingqian said in a deep voice. I can't use my battle technique now, you'll have to deal with it. Because of the wind, the saliva would splatter everywhere, making it easier to stick to the saliva. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. The 9-leaf fire lotus appeared out of thin air, and waves of fire immediately surged. Boom! In the next moment, with the 2 of them as the center, the waves of fire surged in all directions. The terrifyingly high temperature quickly evaporated the saliva. However, there were still a few drops of saliva that escaped the evaporation of the waves of fire. Like a few arrows, they instantly stuck to Lu Xingqian's hand. Immediately, his skin began to fester. His lips also instantly turned black. He could not help but wail in pain. Damn it! Qin Feiyang cursed inwardly. He took out the Chang Shui and decisively cut off Lu Xingqian's arm. Blood immediately gushed out. However, the blood was as black as ink, and it was even steaming with black smoke. Swoosh. However, at the same time, the Monkey King behind them suddenly went berserk. Like a bolt of lightning, it instantly landed behind Qin Feiyang. Its huge hand, which was the size of a dustpan, grabbed Qin Feiyang. Then, it held Qin Feiyang's entire body firmly in its hands. You're still being dishonest. Qin Feiyang was seething with anger. He exerted all his strength. However, the Monkey King's strength was too great. He could not break free at all. Moreover, he was held in the Monkey King's hand, including his arm and the Chang Shui. Hence, he could not use the Chang Shui. The Monkey King roared, "Hand it over to me at once, or I'll crush you. If you crush me, it'll die as well." Qin Feiyang sneered. Stubborn. The Monkey King's eyes shone fiercely. It exerted a little force, and Qin Feiyang's bones, apart from his head, were all broken. The intense pain caused his face to contort. As for Lu Xingqian, he could not save him now, because the venom of the winged sand python was too terrifying. Although Qin Feiyang cut off his arm in time, the venom had already mixed into his blood, and his consciousness was dizzy. Even the poison was attacking his heart. What should I do? Countless thoughts flashed through Qin Feiyang's mind. At this time he must be calm. Otherwise, once he lost his mind, he would definitely die. The situation at this time could be said to be hanging by a thread. Suddenly, his eyes flashed with a cold light. With a thought, the pangolin appeared without any warning. Catch it! Qin Feiyang roared. With a thought, a rib appeared. When the pangolin saw this situation, it knew what to do. It grabbed the rib and slammed it on the Monkey King's head. Immediately, the Monkey King was smashed to the point of seeing stars. The hand that grabbed Qin Feiyang also loosened a little. Still not letting go, the pangolin roared, grabbed the rib again, and smashed it on the other 3 heads of the Monkey King like lightning. Bang bang bang. The 4 heads of the Monkey King began to feel dizzy. The huge hand that grabbed Qin Feiyang finally loosened. But at the same time, the Monkey King raised his other arm and slammed it on the pangolin. The pangolin was smart. It had already expected this. It quickly moved its body and narrowly avoided this dangerous attack. But even so, the palm wind sent it flying. Its skin and flesh were lacerated. After all, it was only a 2-star war emperor now. The gap between it and the Monkey King was too big. Even if it was just a palm wind, it was still fatal. His consciousness was being swallowed by the darkness. Moreover, the winged sand python once again spat out a wave of venom. It covered the sky and the earth, terrifying one's mind. But at this time, Qin Feiyang finally escaped. Without hesitation, he waved his hand and sent Lu Xingqian to the ancient castle. Following closely, he endured the intense pain and rushed towards the pangolin. At the same time, the 9-leaf fire lotus erupted with a monstrous wave of fire, drowning the void. A large part of the saliva instantly evaporated. But there was too much saliva and it couldn't evaporate all of it. A drop of saliva landed on Qin Feiyang's leg. He could clearly feel a terrifying poison rapidly spreading throughout his body. His skin instantly turned pitch black. His life was in danger. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and endured the heart-wrenching pain. He raised his broken arm and swung the Chang Shui. His thigh was directly cut off. Pitch-black blood sprinkled down like rain. But the remaining poison quickly spread throughout his body. His consciousness was also dizzy. Roar! However, misfortune never came alone. At this time, the Monkey King woke up. It roared angrily and crossed the void, charging towards Qin Feiyang. Its body was overflowing with hostility. Qin Feiyang's body and mind tensed up. Cold sweat broke out. He bit his tongue hard to maintain his consciousness and roared. Pangolin, come here. The roar was like thunder, entering the pangolin's mind. Immediately, the pangolin quivered. Its consciousness that was swallowed by the darkness suddenly woke up. Without the slightest hesitation, it immediately dragged its seriously injured body and rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang also flew towards it. The distance between the man and the beast was only 100 meters. But at this moment, in their eyes, it was like a gap that was difficult to cross. Those winged sand pythons spat out the 3rd wave of saliva. Their target was not Qin Feiyang, but the pangolin. The Monkey King's target was Qin Feiyang. The pangolin anxiously roared. You can't save me. Go. No. Since you've followed me, I can't leave you behind. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Clang. 9 fire lotus leaves fell at the same time and bombarded the Monkey King behind. Explode. As it approached, Qin Feiyang roared. The 9 leaves exploded, giving birth to an apocalyptic energy that turned into a giant wave that swept out in all directions. The saliva that rushed towards the pangolin was all evaporated in an instant. But this did not stop the Monkey King from advancing. It only made it pause. All of this happened too fast. Chapter 484. A distance of 50 meters could be covered in a few steps. However, at this moment, for Qin Feiyang and the pangolin, it was a line of life and death that was difficult to approach. The pangolin angrily said, I told you to leave, so leave quickly. The Monkey King was already behind Qin Feiyang, and it was only a few meters away. With Qin Feiyang's current state, it was impossible to escape. But he couldn't give up. It was even more impossible to abandon the pangolin and escape alone. Clang. A red battle sword emerged from behind him. Roar. Following closely, a flaming beast shadow roared out. One sword and one beast carried a never say die belief as they charged towards the Monkey King. An ant trying to shake a tree. The Monkey King's eyes were filled with disdain. With a slap of its big hand, it directly smashed the battle sword and the beast shadow into pieces. Puff! Qin Feiyang was so angry that blood spurted out, and his injuries worsened. The pangolin angrily roared. Leave quickly, do you want to die? Before I give up, don't give up either. Qin Feiyang shouted as his consciousness continued to fade. He bit his tongue hard again, and his tongue was about to be bitten off. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth like a stream. His entire face had been distorted. Looking at Qin Feiyang, who was willing to risk his life to save him, the pangolin's heart was sour, and tears could not stop flowing out of his eyes. At this time, the distance between the man and the beast was only 20 meters. However, the Monkey King had also come behind Qin Feiyang, and was very close. Don't even think about escaping today. It raised its huge hand and once again grabbed towards Qin Feiyang. Right now, it did not dare to really kill Qin Feiyang, but as long as it caught Qin Feiyang, all the problems would be solved. Roar. But at this time, a loud dragon roar sounded, shaking the void and the earth. Then, a vast dragon might, like a volcanic eruption, crazily rolled out in this place. The winged sand pythons around suddenly trembled, and a strong fear emerged from the depths of their hearts. Even the Monkey King's face changed color and retreated without hesitation. 4 pairs of eyes and 8 pupils constricted together. This was an innate fear. The dragon was the king of all beasts, and its dignity was inviolable. Whether it was the dire beasts of today, or the descendants from 10,000 years ago, they were all instinctively afraid of it. The Monkey King and the winged sand pythons couldn't figure it out. How did this human suddenly burst out with dragon's might? Qin Feiyang wanted to summon the purple gold dragon soul, but seeing the situation, he decided against it. After all, the purple gold dragon soul was too shocking. If news of this spread, who knew what kind of storm it would cause? As long as he could intimidate the Monkey King and the winged sand python, everything would be fine. And now was the opportunity. Qin Feiyang and the pangolin quickly converged. Not good. The expression of the Monkey King drastically changed. His might gushed forth as he lunged towards the human and beast. Damned monkey, you'll regret this. Qin Feiyang sneered, grabbed the pangolin beast, and disappeared without a trace. Damn it. The Monkey King howled in anger as its baleful aura soared to the heavens. The surrounding winged sand pythons all hid far away, not daring to approach it. Whoosh. But at this time, with the sound of something breaking through the air, another winged sand python landed in front of the Monkey King. Its body was very small, only more than 1 meter long, but its body was covered with yellow scales, revealing a hard texture. Greetings, my king. The surrounding winged sand pythons all lowered their heads, looking extremely respectful. That's right. It was the ruler of this desert, the Sand Python King. The Sand Python King looked at the Monkey King, with its long and narrow snake eyes shining with cold light, and said, "Monkey, what was that dragon's might just now?" The Monkey King replied, "I don't know, but I'm sure that the human called Qin Feiyang is not simple." Qin Feiyang? The Sand Python King was confused. They entered here 4 months ago. Countless of my monkeys and grandchildren have been killed by them. The most important thing is that the self-proclaimed holy monkey also fell into their hands. The Monkey King continued to transmit his voice, his eyes as gloomy as water. "What?" The Sand Python King's expression changed, and he also said secretly, "You let them take the holy monkey, what are you doing?" His tone was quite angry. "I didn't want to do that. But they are really cunning." Furthermore, that Qin Feiyang possessed a dagger that could easily break through ice. He also possessed a bone that could shatter ice. In addition, he has a treasure that can hide. As long as he hides, I can't even sense where he is. Tell me, what can I do to them?" The Monkey King roared. The Sand Python King was silent for a while, and then asked, "What is their purpose of coming here?" "To find someone," the Monkey King said. The Sand Python King's pupils contracted, and he said in a low voice, "Who?" "Him." The Monkey King transmitted his voice secretly. The Sand Python King said in surprise, "Impossible, how do they know where he is?" The Monkey King shook his head and said, "I don't know. It seems that this matter is more complicated than I thought. But no matter what, we can't let them leave alive. Because of the existence of the canyon, we can't let the people outside know about our existence. We can't let them take the holy monkey away," the Sand Python King said. "Don't worry, they can't run away. According to my observation, although Qin Feiyang's space treasure can hide, it can't be moved. As long as we stay here, they will come out to beg for mercy sooner or later." The Monkey King transmitted his voice, and his eyes flashed fiercely. "Can't be moved?" The Sand Python King's eyes lit up, and he sneered. "Very well, I would like to see who can outlast the other." Immediately, under its order, the winged sand pythons around entered the yellow sand and disappeared. Only the Sand Python King and the Monkey King were here. At the same time, inside the castle, the moment Qin Feiyang, Lu Xingqian, and the pangolin beast entered the ancient castle, their vision turned dark and they fell unconscious on the ground. No one cared about Lu Xingqian. But when Qin Feiyang and the pangolin fell, Lin Yi, Fatso Luhong and Luo Qianxue were shocked. Fatso and Luhong were the first to get up. They ran to Qin Feiyang and the pangolin, squatted on the ground, and checked their injuries. Lin Yi and Luo Qianxue also got up and stood beside Qin Feiyang. Their faces were full of worry. After a few seconds, Luhong took out a healing pill and put it into the pangolin's mouth. Then she got up and walked to Fatso and asked, "How is Qin Feiyang?" Fatso frowned and asked, "What about the pangolin?" Luhong said, "It is just seriously injured and unconscious. I have given it a healing pill. Its life is not in danger." Fatso sighed. "The pangolin is fine, but the boss's situation is not good." When Lin Yi heard this sentence, her face suddenly turned pale. She said anxiously, "How is Brother Feiyang?" Fatso looked up at her and sighed. "The boss's injury is not serious, but the toxin has entered his heart." "What?" Luo Qianxue, Lin Yi, and Lu Hong immediately felt as if they were struck by lightning. Their bodies and minds trembled. Fatso said, "Fortunately, the boss cut off his thigh in time. Otherwise, he would be dead now." Lu Hong said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense. Just tell us if there is a way to detoxify." Now she was also in a mess. Yes, detoxification pill. But the general detoxification pill definitely won't work. Fatso took out a medicinal pill with 2 elixir patterns and said worriedly, "I just hope this detoxification pill is effective." After that, he put the detoxification pill into Qin Feiyang's mouth. "Boss, Fat Lord still wants to be the protector general of the state. You can't die now." Fatso retracted his arm and muttered secretly. He turned to look at Lu Hong and said, "Give Lu Xingqian a detoxification pill too." Lu Hong turned around and walked toward Lu Xingqian. "Brother Feiyang." Lin Yi squatted next to Qin Feiyang. She reached out and stroked Qin Feiyang's dark face. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, and tears gushed out like a spring. Fatso got up, walked to Luo Qianxue's side, and watched this scene silently. After Lu Hong gave Lu Xingqian a detoxification pill, she turned around and came to Fatso's side. Her eyes were a little wet, but she tried hard to restrain herself. Suddenly, she turned to look at Fatso and asked, "Do you have a blood-generating pill?" Blood-generating pill. Fatso was taken aback and asked, "Why do you need the blood-generating pill?" Lu Hong said, "Qin Feiyang's blood has toxins. If the blood is drained, he should recover faster." Fatso slapped his head and said angrily, "Why didn't Fat Lord think of it?" He hurriedly took out the Qingkuan pouch and searched for a moment. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he took out 5 blood-generating pills. Then, he took out another dagger and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. He urged, "Yi, quickly move aside." Lin Yi retreated aside obediently. Fatso first gave Qin Feiyang a blood-generating pill, then cut Qin Feiyang's wrist with the dagger. Pitch-black blood immediately flowed out of the wound. A pungent stench quickly spread in the castle. Lin Yi said worriedly, "Fatso, is it okay for you to bleed like this?" Fatso smiled and said, "Don't worry. With the blood-generating pill, there is no problem at all." After thinking about it, Fatso added, "Although the venom of the winged sand python is very toxic, it is still a lot worse than the black evil spirit's poison. The black evil spirit's poison can't kill boss, let alone this thing." In fact, he was also nervous in his heart. He said so just to comfort Lin Yi and Luo Qianxue. Time passed quickly. 2 days passed. In the past 2 days, Lin Yi, Lu family and Luo Qianxue stayed close. Fatso also bled Qin Feiyang 10 times. The originally dark blood had finally returned to normal. Qin Feiyang's breath gradually stabilized. Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang's situation and smiled at Luo Qianxue and others. "Boss should be fine. You all go and cultivate. Don't waste time." Lin Yi said, "You all go and cultivate. I will take care of Brother Feiyang." "All right." Fatso thought for a while and nodded with a smile. After giving Qin Feiyang a healing pill and regeneration pill, he got up and walked to the corner to check the injuries of the pangolin beast. "It hasn't woken up yet. This guy is seriously injured. Damn monkey, just you wait. I will cripple you sooner or later." Fatso's eyes flashed with a shocking cold light. He sat cross-legged next to the pangolin beast and began to cultivate. "Everything is because of strength. If I have enough strength, how can everyone fall into the current situation?" Luo Qianxue and Lu Hong glanced at Qin Feiyang and also entered close cultivation. If one looked closely, one would find that Lu Hong's expression had a piercing coldness. The next day, the pangolin beast finally woke up. Seeing that Qin Feiyang's situation had stabilized, it immediately began to close cultivation. Chapter 485. Another 5 days passed. Lin Yi did not leave for the past 5 days. Moreover, she also wiped the blood on Qin Feiyang's body clean. Qin Feiyang's lost thigh had also been repaired. It was on this day. Qin Feiyang's closed eyes moved slightly. "Brother Feiyang." Lin Yi always paid attention to Qin Feiyang's situation, so this subtle change did not escape her eyes. Immediately, a hint of joy appeared in her dim and lifeless eyes. After a few breaths, Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. There was a trace of confusion in his eyes. "Brother Feiyang, you finally woke up. Do you know how worried I was these past few days?" Lin Yi could no longer control her emotions. She lay on Qin Feiyang's body and cried with joy. "And I'm not dead." Qin Feiyang was a little stunned. When he recovered, he looked at Lin Yi, who was lying on top of him. His gaze suddenly became complicated. As long as one was not an idiot, one could see this girl's feelings for him. If this continues, I'm afraid it will reach the point of no return. But how can I make her give up completely? Reject her cruelly? But he really couldn't do it, because he was Yi's only family member now. If he directly said that he did not like her, she would be too sad and would probably go to extremes. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. He really couldn't make Yi sad. He raised his arm, gently rubbed Yi's head and comforted. Am I not fine? Don't cry. His body was still very weak. It was difficult to even raise his hand. His voice was a little hoarse. But in order not to let Yi worry, he pretended to have recovered. I'm not crying. I'm happy. Lin Yi raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang with tears in her eyes. Her face was full of joy. Yes, no matter what happens, you should be happy. Even if I die unfortunately, you have to live happily. Qin Feiyang smiled. Lin Yi's face changed. She hurriedly covered Qin Feiyang's mouth and said, Don't say such inauspicious words. All right. I won't say anything. I won't say anything in the future. Get up first. I've been lying around for so long that my body is almost rusty. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes. Lin Yi nodded and got up to help Qin Feiyang up. Qin Feiyang stretched his muscles and bones. Although he didn't have much strength, walking wasn't a problem. Lin Yi looked up and down at Qin Feiyang and wondered, Brother Feiyang, aren't you healed? Why is your face still a little dark? Is it dark? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Lin Yi took out a mirror and placed it in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked at himself in the mirror. His skin was indeed a little dark, but it wasn't that obvious. How could this be? He frowned and immersed his mind into his body. After some observation, the blood in his body had completely returned to normal. But his heart was still a little dark. It seemed that the toxins had not been detoxified. Qin Feiyang calmed his mind, looked at Yi and asked, Who helped me detoxify? It's Fatso. But the person who came up with this idea is Sister Lu Hong. Lin Yi briefly explained the situation at the time. After listening, Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso and Lu Hong. Fortunately, they were there. Otherwise, it would be a disaster this time. Withdrawing his gaze, he looked at Lin Yi again and smiled. Don't worry about me. Go and cultivate first. Lin Yi asked, Are you really okay? Don't worry. I'm fine. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right. Lin Yi looked at him suspiciously, turned around, walked to Luo Qianxue, and sat on the ground. When Lin Yi closed her eyes, Qin Feiyang glanced at the pangolin. Seeing that the pangolin had recovered, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief secretly. Then he walked to Lu Xingchen again. He didn't know if he didn't look, but he was shocked when he saw it. Lu Xingchen was still in a coma. Not only that, but his skin was as black as charcoal, as dark as ink. What's going on? He hurriedly squatted down and checked Lu Xingchen's situation. His expression changed drastically. Fatso didn't detoxify Lu Xingchen. He knew what Fatso was thinking in his heart. But now Lu Xingchen couldn't die yet. Because Lu Xingchen's resurrection was too strange. He would feel uneasy if he didn't find out the truth. Qin Feiyang first refined a few regeneration pills, and then changed Lu Xingchen's blood. Fortunately, he woke up in time. If he woke up a few days later, Lu Xingchen would have died. When the situation stabilized, Qin Feiyang refined a detoxification pill with 3 elixir patterns and took it. Then he looked into his heart. The detoxification pill turned into a majestic energy and rushed to the heart. The last bit of toxin was finally removed. After the toxin was eradicated, Qin Feiyang's complexion really returned to normal, and the lost strength was also recovering little by little. If I don't change my blood, I'm afraid I will need at least a detoxification pill with 4 elixir patterns to eradicate the toxin. It seems that I must be careful when facing the winged sand python in the future. Qin Feiyang murmured. At the same time, he was quite worried. Even he couldn't refine a pill with 4 elixir patterns, let alone others. Looking at the entire spiritual state, it was impossible to find. If these winged sand pythons leave the Grand Canyon and enter the outside continent, it would undoubtedly be a disaster for the billions of creatures in the spiritual state. If there is a chance, it is best to bury all the winged sand pythons here. Swish. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he disappeared instantly. But the next moment, he appeared out of thin air again with a gloomy gaze. Lin Yi opened her eyes suspiciously and asked, Brother Feiyang, what's wrong? Qin Feiyang said, The Monkey King is guarding outside. There is also a winged sand python that is not inferior to the Monkey King. It should be the king of the winged sand python. Lin Yi said worriedly. Then aren't we trapped here? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, You just cultivate with peace of mind. I will deal with these things. And I believe in Brother Feiyang. Lin Yi smiled and closed her eyes. Damn monkey, this debt will not be settled like this. Wait and see. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed fiercely. He took out the battle chi pill and waited for the depleted battle chi to recover. Then he continued to copy the battle formula. Lu Xingqian didn't wake up until half a month later because he changed his blood too late. Qin Feiyang also refined a 3-vein detoxification pill for him to eradicate the toxin. Subsequently, Lu Xingqian began to retreat to restore his vitality. Time passed quickly like the sand between the fingers. On this day, Qin Feiyang's fingertips trembled, and a bright light beam bloomed, illuminating the entire ancient castle. His cultivation also soared to the 6-star combat emperor. Finally, I'm done copying. He didn't care much about the skyrocketing cultivation at this moment. His eyes were all on the word battle. About 3 breaths later, the word battle on the iron book suddenly turned blood red as if it was cast by blood, exuding a bloody brilliance. At the same time, a monstrous battle intent broke out, awakening everyone. Fatso and Lu Hong were already used to it. But Luo Qianxue, Lin Yi, the pangolin, and Lu Xingqian saw it for the first time. Their faces were full of surprise. What's going on? Suddenly, the eyes of Luo Qianxue and the others became extremely incredulous. The word battle actually left the iron book and gradually rose into the air. Whoosh! Following closely, the word battle turned into a stream of light and went into Qin Feiyang's glabella. As soon as the word battle disappeared, the bloody brilliance and the astonishing battle intent also dissipated. The ancient castle soon returned to calm. The pangolin was surprised. What happened just now? This is a secret. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously and looked at the small line of words at the bottom of the page. After breaking through to the Battle Master, he could turn to the second page. Battle Master? It shouldn't take long. He muttered secretly, closed the iron box, turned to look at Lu Xingqian and smiled. Do you dare to accompany me to meet the Monkey King? Why wouldn't I dare? Lu Xingqian got up without the slightest fear on his face. 2 lunatics. Fatso rolled his eyes at them and closed his eyes directly. Didn't they suffer enough last time? Now they actually took the initiative to provoke the monkey. If they weren't lunatics, what were they? Luo Qianxue said. Feiyang, I won't stop you from doing whatever you want, but you must act according to your ability. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's good. Luo Qianxue smiled with relief. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingqian and said, Are you ready? Lu Xingqian smiled and said, Let's go. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, took Lu Xingqian, and appeared over the desert. Monkey King and Sand Python Emperor, who were squatting in the void, suddenly became fierce when they saw the two. Monkey King sneered. I thought you would hide for a lifetime. Don't say such useless nonsense. Qin Feiyang glanced at it and said indifferently, Do you dare to make a bet with me? Is there a need for that? Sand Python Emperor sneered. Qin Feiyang turned to look at it and asked, Are you the emperor of this desert? That's right. Sand Python Emperor laughed coldly and arrogantly, with a hint of contempt in his eyes. Qin Feiyang said, Just in time, one of you two can come and fight with me. As long as I can hold on for 10 breaths of time, you can let us go. 10 breaths of time? Are you joking? Haha. Monkey King and Sand Python Emperor couldn't help but laugh out loud, filled with ridicule. One had to know. They were all existences of the War Master realm, and the human in front of him seemed to be only a 5-star war emperor. No. Suddenly, Monkey King's pupils contracted. This human's aura was actually stronger than before. You can't have broken through again, right? Monkey King was surprised. Qin Feiyang laughed. Thank you for taking care of me. I just broke through to the 6-star war emperor. How is this possible? Monkey King's eyes widened, unable to believe it. Sand Python Emperor said disdainfully. Monkey, isn't it just breaking through a small realm? What's the fuss about? Monkey King sent a sound transmission. It's not that I'm making a fuss, it's just that it's too unbelievable. Sand Python Emperor was stunned, and secretly said, "What do you mean?" I clearly remember that when he first came to the canyon, he was only a 4-star war emperor. But in just half a year, he actually broke through to the 6-star war emperor. Don't you think this speed is amazing? Monkey King said. What? In half a year's time he broke through 2 small realms? When Sand Python Emperor heard this, he looked at Qin Feiyang with his mouth agape. Chapter 486. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 beasts and provoked. I'll only ask you one thing, do you dare? Right now you don't have the conditions to choose. Because as long as we hide, you can't do anything to us. Moreover, you have seen Qin Feiyang's talent. I can guarantee that in less than 5 years, he will be able to step into the War Master. And we are all top-grade alchemists. The resources we have on us are enough for us to survive for decades, or even hundreds of years. Trying to trap us to death is simply a dream. Once Qin Feiyang steps into the War Master, you have even less chance of winning. So you can only agree. Lu Xingqian said with a faint smile. Qin Feiyang said, he said it clearly enough, I won't say any more, think about it carefully. Monkey King and Sand Python Emperor looked at each other. Their eyes filled with anger and helplessness. Monkey King gritted his teeth and nodded. Alright, this Emperor agrees, but what if you can't hold on for 10 breaths of time? Qin Feiyang said. If I can't hold on for 10 breaths of time, I will return the monkey to you and leave the canyon immediately. Monkey King said. Then it's a deal. It's a deal. Qin Feiyang said. Monkey King and Sand Python Emperor began to discuss who should go out to fight. Qin Feiyang took out a rib and handed it to Lu Xingqian, and whispered a few words into Lu Xingqian's ear. Lu Xingqian nodded. A moment later, Monkey King took a step forward, his 8 huge eyes firmly staring at Qin Feiyang, and said, This Emperor will accompany you in battle. Step back. Qin Feiyang said to Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian retreated into the distance. Sand Python Emperor did not retreat and stood to the side. This was because the fluctuations from the battle between Monkey King and Qin Feiyang did not pose any danger to him. Qin Feiyang watched as Lu Xingqian left. He took a deep breath and turned back to look at the Monkey King. Come. Boom. The Monkey King's aura erupted forth. He soared through the air with a single step and instantly appeared before Qin Feiyang. The dustpan-sized giant hand suddenly slapped towards Qin Feiyang's head. Battle chi surged, shaking the mountains and rivers. Moreover, its speed was so fast that it was impossible to guard against it. Fight! Qin Feiyang stared at the Monkey King as he abruptly roared. A mist of blood instantly gushed out from his pores. Boom! Following closely, a monstrous battle intent rushed out of his body like an erupting volcano, unstoppable. It was the battle character formula. At the same time, his pitch-black hair and pitch-black eyes instantly turned blood red. The Monkey King looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise, but then said disdainfully, No matter what tricks you play, a loss is a loss, and no one can change it. The dustpan-sized giant hand, with a destructive force, suddenly fell down. That's not necessarily true. Qin Feiyang slapped the air with his palm, and a golden light suddenly appeared in his palm. But compared to the Monkey King's giant hand, Qin Feiyang's hand was like an ant compared to an elephant, insignificant. At this moment, Lu Xingqian's heart was also in his throat. Boom! The 2 hands met in an instant. Without any suspense, Qin Feiyang was directly slapped down without any resistance, and his arm was instantly shattered. Bang! In the end, he was like a meteorite, smashing into the desert below. Suddenly, yellow sand flew. A sandstorm raged. A crater that was several hundred meters deep appeared. On the other hand, the Monkey King stood firmly in the air without moving, but there was a trace of disbelief in his eyes. Previously, when it collided with Qin Feiyang, it clearly felt that a part of its power was reflected back. In other words, this kind of battle art used by the other party had the power to give itself a taste of its own medicine. Its killing intent suddenly rose. This kind of battle art was too terrifying. If it allowed the other party to grow and break through to the War Master, It might not be able to stop him. It swooped down and swept towards the deep pit below. 3 breaths have already passed. A cold voice sounded. Qin Feiyang rushed out from the yellow sand, his body dripping with blood. However, no matter from his face or eyes, there was not the slightest trace of weakness. He seemed to be hale and hearty, and his fighting spirit was soaring to the sky. How is this possible? Seeing this, whether it was the Monkey King, the Sand Python Emperor, or Lu Xingqian, their faces were filled with disbelief. One must know, Qin Feiyang was only a 6-star war emperor, while the Monkey King was a genuine war master. The difference in their cultivation could be said to be like heaven and earth. The Monkey King had used all his strength in that palm strike. If it was someone else, they would have been smashed into pieces. Even if they weren't smashed into pieces, they would definitely be seriously injured and unconscious, or even crippled on the spot. However, Qin Feiyang was still alive and kicking. Why was this? Not good. All of a sudden, the Sand Python Emperor quivered and came back to his senses. He shouted, "Monkey, 5 breaths have passed." 5 breaths. The Monkey King's huge body trembled and immediately charged towards Qin Feiyang. At the same time, Qin Feiyang swallowed a regeneration pill and a healing pill. His blood-red hair was like a river of blood, dancing wildly behind him. Battle character art. Whether or not I can hold on today all depends on you, he mumbled to himself. Abruptly, he stared at the Monkey King as his eyes gleamed with determination. Boom. Qin Feiyang took the initiative to greet him. You still dare to take the initiative to come up? You really don't know life from death. The Monkey King was furious. Qin Feiyang's behavior, to it, was simply a naked contempt. It was like a big mountain, rapidly falling from the sky. Its big hairy foot was about to step on Qin Feiyang's head. It was going to crush Qin Feiyang's head. Fight! Qin Feiyang roared. He raised his other arm, and the return character art appeared in his palm. He slapped at the Monkey King's foot. Boom! Crack! This arm was also smashed on the spot. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and was once again blasted into the desert. How dare you be arrogant in front of me? Aren't you courting death? The Monkey King sneered and turned to Lu Xingqian, his eyes flashing fiercely. He was fully confident in himself. Qin Feiyang would definitely die this time. The Sand Python Emperor also sneered. Not good. Lu Xingqian's face darkened. He looked up at the black storm above, and then down at the desert below. Is he really dead? His eyes flashed. Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Lu Xingqian rushed to the sky and rushed toward the black storm. Once Qin Feiyang died, he had no place to hide. He could only hide in the storm to avoid the pursuit of the 2 beasts. However, just as the Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor were about to kill Lu Xingqian and Lu Xingqian was about to hide in the storm, a huge wave of yellow sand suddenly rose from below. A blood-red figure rushed out of the yellow sand. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyang? He was covered in blood and was seriously injured, but his sharp eyes still showed no signs of weakness. He stood proudly in the void and looked at the Monkey King. Where are you going? Not dead. That's impossible. The Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor widened their eyes in disbelief. How could he not die? Was this a joke? Lu Xingqian's eyes were also filled with shock. The Monkey King used all his strength in the 2 attacks. If it were him, he would not be able to withstand it. No. It wasn't that he wasn't confident, it was that he didn't dare to take it on. But Qin Feiyang, this guy, actually withstood it. What a pervert. While the Monkey King and the Beast King were stunned, another 2 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang's fighting spirit boiled, and he sneered. 9 stars have already passed. There is only 1 breath left. Damn it. The Monkey King was unable to restrain his anger. His battle chi surged out, emitting a bright light. Like a pillar of light that reached the sky, it carried a destructive aura as it charged towards Qin Feiyang. Lu Xingqian shouted. 10 breaths have passed, we have won, stop immediately. Impossible. The Monkey King roared. Not only did he not stop, the evil aura around his body became even stronger than before. At the same time, the Sand Python Emperor also turned into a streak of light, cutting through the sky and charging towards Lu Xingqian. Bastard. As a super overlord of the War Master level, you actually went back on your word. Lu Xingqian's hair stood on end as he charged towards the black storm without looking back. Qin Feiyang's face was also gloomy, but he was not surprised. This was because he had already expected such an outcome before the fight began. That was why he gave Lu Xingqian a rib in advance. After all, as long as he fought with the Monkey King, he would definitely be separated from Lu Xingqian, and naturally would not be able to rescue Lu Xingqian in time. And with the rib, Lu Xingqian could hide in the storm. Qin Feiyang glanced at the pillar of light, then looked at the Monkey King. His gaze was extremely cold, and said, "Are you really going to pester me to the end?" The Monkey King roared, "Hand it over. This emperor will leave your corpse intact." In that case, Qin Feiyang's eyes surged with a cold light, his arm shot out, and his index finger repeatedly pointed in the air. Ultimate. Boom. For invisible forces surged downwards like a tsunami, covering the sky and covering the earth. Swish. Following closely, Qin Feiyang flickered and disappeared without a trace. Just after he disappeared, the 4 invisible forces blasted into the desert. The yellow sand within a radius of several miles suddenly surged, drowning the void. And in the yellow sand, winged sand pythons exploded one after another. Fresh blood dyed the yellow sand red. The smell of blood was harsh. Damn human, come out and die for this emperor. The sand python emperor was mad. Its long and narrow snake eyes were bloodshot. You brought this upon yourselves. Lu Xingqian stood under the black storm, looking at the 2 beasts with a sneer. I'll kill you first. The Monkey King and the sand python emperor rushed into the sky, full of killing intent. Kill me. Come in if you have the ability. Lu Xingqian smiled disdainfully, grabbed the rib, and directly went into the black storm. He dares to go in? The 2 beasts were dumbfounded. The sand python emperor said, "If he enters the storm, he will definitely die, don't worry about him." The Monkey King nodded. Is that so? Lu Xingqian's voice came out from the storm. Not dead? How is this possible? The 2 beasts' bodies stiffened, their eyes full of disbelief. Are you disappointed to hear my voice? We can come down from above. Naturally we have some life-saving means. You can't even think of this, are you stupid? Lu Xingqian joked. The Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor were mad, and their battle chi was like a rainbow, madly attacking the black storm. Lu Xingqian took a step and landed on the other side of the storm, sneering. Don't waste your energy, it's useless. Come out if you have the guts. The Monkey King roared. Boom. At this moment, a few loud sounds came from below. The expressions of the 2 beasts changed abruptly. They hurriedly looked down and saw that Qin Feiyang had appeared again at some point. The arm that was shattered at first had already been repaired, and was crazily bombarding the desert. The winged sand pythons suffered a devastating blow, and countless were killed or injured. Stop! The sand python emperor anxiously roared. Chapter 487. After that, Qin Feiyang disappeared again. Monkey King and Sand Python King were extremely angry. If the other party was strong, they would feel better. But the key was that the other party was only 2 war emperors. War emperors used to be as small as ants in their eyes. However, at this moment, they were restrained everywhere. What could be more aggrieved than this? Aren't you guys very arrogant? Why don't you dare to come in? Lu Xingqian's provocative voice came out from the storm again. But Monkey King and Sand Python King ignored him, because Qin Feiyang was the biggest threat. If they didn't have that hiding treasure, they had full confidence that they could kill the 2 of them with a flip of their hand. Swoosh! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air. His other arm had also been repaired. Monkey King and Sand Python King immediately took action. But Qin Feiyang used the ultimate void 4 times in a row, releasing 4 invisible forces and entered the ancient castle again. Although his speed was not as fast as Monkey King and the other 2 beasts, he could enter and exit the ancient castle with just a thought. Even if the 2 beasts' strength was heaven-defying, they couldn't hurt him at all. Boom! The invisible force roared in the sky and attacked in all directions. Many winged sand pythons were killed on the spot. One must know. Qin Feiyang was now a 6-star war emperor. With the help of the perfect battle art, killing a 9-star war emperor was easy. It could be said that he could already dominate the same realm. If he added the battle art and return art, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the #1 person under the War Master. And the winged sand pythons in the desert, except for Sand Python King, were all war emperors. It could be said that this was a one-sided massacre. Sand Python King said anxiously, "Monkey, if he continues to kill like this, my people will definitely be killed by him. Quickly think of a way." "What can I do?" Monkey King roared in exasperation. If there was a way, it would have killed Qin Feiyang a few months ago. "We can't catch him. Pressure can't imprison him. Let's just do as he says." Sand Python King sighed helplessly. The Monkey King said, "How can that be?" The Sand Python Emperor said angrily, "Then tell me, what should I do?" The Monkey King wanted to say something, but he realized that he didn't know what to say. A deep sense of helplessness appeared in his 8 pupils. Alas! The Monkey King let out a long sigh and said loudly, "Qin Feiyang, come out. Let's have a good talk." Whoosh! The next moment, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air. He looked up at the 2 beasts and asked, "What do you want to talk about?" The Monkey King said, "I won't make things difficult for you, but when you leave, you have to return the holy monkey to me." "Holy monkey?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. After pondering for a moment, he smiled and said, "Wouldn't it have been better if you had done this earlier? Why do you have to make things unpleasant?" The Monkey King clenched his fists and suppressed the anger in his heart. He said, "I hope you can keep your word." Qin Feiyang said, "Of course. I, Qin Feiyang, always keep my word." The Sand Python Emperor said, "In fact, you don't need to keep looking for it, because the person you are looking for is not here at all. Whether he is here or not, we will know after looking for him." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The 2 beasts looked at each other, extremely angry. At this time, Lu Xingqian also flew out of the black storm and landed beside Qin Feiyang like lightning, returning the rib to Qin Feiyang. After Qin Feiyang put away the rib, he took a healing pill and rose into the air with Lu Xingqian, and continued to fly forward. The Sand Python Emperor looked at their backs and asked the Monkey King, "What should we do?" The Monkey King's eyes flashed slightly and he said in a deep voice, "The holy monkey is in their hands. I must follow them." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step and followed behind Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. The Sand Python Emperor hesitated for a moment and followed. An hour later, Lu Xingqian frowned and said, "Do you feel that something is wrong?" "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The Monkey King guarded the holy monkey in the area of the black stone apes. In this desert, the Sand Python Emperor should also be guarding something. But along the way, we didn't see anything at all except for the yellow sand. Lu Xingqian said. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, "Do you mean that there is also a beast in this desert that sealed itself?" Lu Xingqian shook his head and said, "I'm just guessing. I can't be sure." This question. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and shook his head. "There is no need to delve into this question. Even if there is, it has nothing to do with us. Our task is to find Renduxing." Lu Xingqian nodded. After flying for half a day, the 2 finally flew out of the desert. However, what came into their sight was another glacier forest. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian were puzzled. First it was a verdant forest, then it was a desert, and now it was a glacier forest. This was completely beyond common sense. Moreover, it was not snowing here. Moreover, there was a black storm above. Even if it was snowing, the snow would not float down. But why did this glacier exist? Whoosh! 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 Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian looked at each other, and flew side by side above the glacier, carefully guarding against it. There was a kind of ferocious bird living in the forest. They looked very similar to eagles. But the difference was that they were snow-white and blended in with the glacier. If one did not look carefully, it would be difficult to notice them. What kind of eagles are these? Lu Xingqian frowned. Why was it another kind of ferocious bird that he had never seen before? Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, and his eyes suddenly trembled. He whispered, "It's a species from 10,000 years ago, the snow eagle." Another species? Lu Xingqian's face was full of surprise. What kind of place was this? Why were there only species from 10,000 years ago living here? Whoosh! Suddenly, a loud and powerful screech sounded from the forest below. Then, a snow eagle flapped its wings. Its body was more than 10 meters long. It swept up a bone-piercing cold wind and rushed into the sky. How did humans come in? It glanced at Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian, its eagle eyes full of doubts. Glacier, desert, forest. Qin Feiyang, there must be some mystery here. Lu Xingqian looked at the snow eagle vigilantly and whispered, because the aura of this snow eagle was not weaker than the Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor. Qin Feiyang nodded. The snow eagle's eyes suddenly became sharp and shouted, "This emperor asked you a question, didn't you hear it? Eagle King, don't touch them." The Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor rushed over and roared at the blood eagle. The Eagle King was stunned for a moment. His gaze swept past Qin Feiyang and locked onto the Monkey King and the other two beasts. He asked why. The Monkey King said, "The holy monkey is in their hands." What? The Eagle King's expression changed as he said angrily, "What are you doing? You actually let them take away the holy monkey?" The Monkey King sighed. "It's a long story." The Eagle King said coldly, "The holy monkey is in their hands, then all the more we can't let them go." The Sand Python Emperor hurriedly said, "Don't be rash." A trace of hostility appeared in the Eagle King's eyes as he said angrily, "What do you mean?" The Monkey King said, "Let them go first, we'll talk later." The Eagle King glanced at Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian, his eyes flickering. In the end he spread his wings and retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian looked at each other and flew past the Eagle King. But at this moment, the Eagle King suddenly attacked, his pressure roaring out, imprisoning the two of them in the air. Whoosh! Next, the Eagle King soared into the air, and then swooped down again. His pair of giant claws flashed with a cold light, grabbing towards Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian. Seeing this, the Monkey King and the Sand Whale Emperor's expressions changed. "Stop!" the Monkey King shouted. "A mere 2 war emperors are enough to make you all cower in fear. What a useless piece of trash." The Eagle King mocked, ignoring the two beasts. He charged towards Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian, his eyes filled with contempt. "Break!" Qin Feiyang growled, the blood in his body boiling. He instantly broke free from the restraints of the pressure, and the two of them disappeared into thin air. The Eagle King paused in the air, his eyeballs almost popping out. The two beasts came to the Eagle King's side. The Sand Python Emperor sighed. "Eagle King, they are not that easy to deal with." The Monkey King said helplessly, "Yeah, if they were easy to deal with, we would have killed them long ago." The Eagle King's face was a little embarrassed, his eyes were hazy as he asked, "What exactly is going on?" "We'll talk about it later," the Monkey King said, then said loudly, "Qin Feiyang, come out, the Eagle King will not harm you anymore." Shwa! Before he could finish, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang looked at the Monkey King and said solemnly, "If you dare to attack again, I will really kill the holy monkey." "How dare you?" the Eagle King shouted. "Try it." Qin Feiyang sneered. To others, a fierce beast of the War Master realm was in existence that they could not afford to provoke. But in his eyes it was no big deal. The Eagle King's eagle eyes immediately shone with a sharp light, like sharp blades that pierced into people's hearts. The Monkey King shouted, "Eagle King, that's enough." It then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Don't waste time, quickly go and find them." Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian glanced at the Eagle King, then turned around and continued to search the glacier below. The three fierce beasts were all hanging behind them. At the same time, the Monkey King and the Sand Python Emperor also told the Eagle King about what had happened in the past few months. Hearing this, the Eagle King was extremely shocked. Especially Qin Feiyang's cultivation speed, it was extremely shocked. Another half a day passed. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian finally left the glacier. The scenery in front of them had also changed greatly. It was actually an endless sea of fire. This, what's going on? The two of them were tongue-tied. Jungle, desert, glacier, sea of fire. What was the factor that created these four completely different places? Lu Xingqian pointed to the front and exclaimed, "Look, what kind of fierce beast is that?" Qin Feiyang looked over, only to see that the sea of fire was also filled with fierce beasts. Moreover, they were all of the same species. They looked like lions, but their heads were like dragons. Their fur was as red as fire, and they blended into the sea of fire, almost undetectable. Qin Feiyang looked at it for a moment, then his gaze trembled again and said, "They are fire dragon lions and also a species from 10,000 years ago." Lu Xingqian was already used to it. He was just puzzled. Why were all the fierce beasts from 10,000 years ago living in this canyon? What did this place have to do with 10,000 years ago? Chapter 488. Because Qin Feiyang had been to more places than Lu Xingqian. He also knew more than Lu Xingqian. Like the Forgotten Land. This place also had descendants from 10,000 years ago. And this canyon was full of descendants from 10,000 years ago. There might be some connection between the two. And the holy monkey. There was no doubt that it was also an antique from 10,000 years ago. What exactly happened 10,000 years ago that made the holy monkey choose to seal itself? 10,000 years ago suddenly. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. He remembered that the Great Qin Empire was also established 10,000 years ago. Could it be that all this was related to the first emperor? Why aren't they moving? Seeing this, the Monkey King behind them asked suspiciously, "I don't know." The Sand Python King and the Eagle King shook their heads. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang shook his head and said lightly, "If you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. Let's continue to search." Lu Xingqian smiled faintly and said, "Then let's go." The two continued to move forward. Boom. But not long after they entered the sea of fire, a fierce aura erupted. A giant flame beast rushed into the sky and blocked in front of the two. It was also a fire dragon lion, but its body was more than 10 meters long. Its fan-like eyes seemed to be cast from magma, shining with an astonishing fierce light. Lion King, stop. Before the fire dragon lion could make a move, the Monkey King and the other two beasts spoke in unison. The Lion King glanced at the three beasts and said suspiciously, "What's going on? There are humans who broke in. Why don't you kill them? Don't block their way. Yes, don't block them. They are not to be trifled with. We will tell you the details later." The Theta Wang beast secretly transmitted its voice. The Lion King looked at Qin Feiyang and hesitated again and again, and finally chose to retreat to the side. Qin Feiyang and the Lion King continued to move forward. After the Monkey King and the other two beasts met up with the Lion King, they told the Lion King everything that had happened. After hearing this, the Lion King was also shocked. He also expressed that he wanted to go and help. Thus, another fire dragon lion was added to the group of ferocious beasts following behind Qin Feiyang. Lu Xingqian glanced at the Monkey King and the other two beasts out of the corner of his eye. He smiled bitterly and said, "To be honest, I feel uneasy with them following behind me." Qin Feiyang did not answer, because this was simply nonsense. Being targeted by 4 War Master Realm fierce beasts, who would feel at ease. However, along the way, other than ferocious beasts, not even half a ghost shadow could be found, let alone Renduxing. Half a day passed. The two of them left the Sea of Fire and entered the sky above a forest. However, when they scanned the forest below, they couldn't help but frown. This was because there were countless blackstone apes in the forest. Lu Xingqian frowned. "Don't tell me we took a big detour?" Qin Feiyang said, "If I remember correctly, we did take a big detour. The jungle was located to the east of the canyon. The desert was located in the south. The glacier was located in the west. The Sea of Fire was located in the north. They had set off from the forest, and now they had returned to the forest. In other words, they had searched the entire canyon." Lu Xingqian sighed. "Looks like we guessed wrong. Uncle Run is not here. Let's look again. When we reach the cave where the holy monkey sealed itself, if we still haven't found it, we'll leave." Qin Feiyang said. Whiz. The two of them continued to fly and search carefully. The Monkey King and the other two beasts followed behind them the entire time, their eyes flickering with an inexplicable light. Another 4 hours passed. Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian arrived at the top of a mountain. On top of the mountain, there was a cave entrance. This cave was the place where the holy monkey sealed itself. Looking down at the canyon, their eyes were filled with disappointment. It seemed that this trip was in vain. Can you return the holy monkey to us now? The Monkey King stood in front of them, their eyes filled with ferocity. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then looked up at the Monkey King and said, I don't understand. Since there are no other humans here, why can your monkeys recover their lost arms and heads? The Monkey King said in a low voice, That's none of your business. This is too important. I have to figure it out. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he took out the Chang Shui and the holy monkey from the castle. If you don't tell me, I'll kill it now. How dare you? The Monkey King and the other two beasts were furious. Qin Feiyang said, Whether I dare or not, you should know very well in your hearts. The four beasts fell silent. Although they had not known each other for long, it was not difficult to see that this person was a daring person from his actions. Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. He placed the Chang Shui on the holy monkey's neck and shouted, My patience is limited. Tell me, who made the pills for you? What should we do? The Monkey King was extremely anxious. He sent a voice transmission to Theta Wang for help. The Lion King thought, Compared to that thing, the holy monkey is more important. The Eagle King said, That's right, it must not die. The Sand Python King said, Why don't we tell them first? When they return the holy monkey to us, we can go all out and fight them to the end. The Monkey King's eyes flashed fiercely. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Fine, I'll tell you. It's not because of the pills that they can recover their heads and arms. Qin Feiyang and the Lion King were shocked. Lu Xingqian said, Then why? The Monkey King said, A cluster of flames. This flame is very magical and has the ability to heal. Although it can't grow flesh and bones and bring the dead back to life, it can easily heal injuries. Flames. The two of them looked at each other. This answer was completely beyond their expectations. Lu Xingqian frowned and whispered, What kind of flame has such an ability? I don't know either. Qin Feiyang shook his head and looked at the Monkey King. Where is the flame? What do you want to do? Let me tell you, you'd better not have any ideas about that flame. The Monkey King said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang said, If you didn't say that, I wouldn't be interested, but now, I really want to take a look. The Monkey King stared at Qin Feiyang gloomily and said, Then give us the holy monkey first. Impossible. You can't hide what you're thinking from me. Before we leave, don't even think about the holy monkey. Qin Feiyang said. The four beasts were helpless to the extreme. Why was this human like a fox? Cunning old fox? It seems that you don't want the holy monkey's life. Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. Chang Shui exerted a little force and slashed at the holy monkey's neck. Seeing this, the Monkey King's face suddenly changed and he hurriedly reached out and shouted, Don't, I'll take you there. Qin Feiyang said. Then hurry up, don't wear out my patience. This is too sullen, I can't help it. The Sand Python Emperor roared and rushed toward Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King like lightning. This sudden and unforeseen event made Qin Feiyang and his two companions as well as the Monkey King and his three beasts startled, because they didn't expect that the Sand Python Emperor would suddenly attack at this time. Regardless of the life and death of the holy monkey, Lu Xingqian quivered and shouted, Brother Qin, retreat first. Qin Feiyang didn't dare to hesitate and immediately took the holy monkey and Lu Xingqian into the castle. However, just before they entered the castle, the Sand Python Emperor released a terrifying pressure and imprisoned them in the void. At the same time, the whole tail of the Sand Python Emperor suddenly exploded, and flesh and blood flew everywhere. Immediately after, a large amount of blood was like a wave, drenching the holy monkey. Qin Feiyang held the holy monkey hostage, and his body was naturally full of blood. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King couldn't help but be stunned. Didn't it want to kill them? Why did it explode its tail instead? The Monkey King, the Eagle King, and the Lion King were also in a daze, not understanding what the Sand Python Emperor was doing. But the next moment, whether it was Qin Feiyang, the Monkey King, or the Monkey King, they all understood. The Sand Python Emperor was going to wake up the Holy Monkey. It was only because all of this had happened too suddenly and too quickly that they were unable to react at the first possible moment. Boom. However, when Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King understood, the sleeping holy monkey in front of them suddenly burst out a terrifying aura. This aura made Qin Feiyang and the Monkey King tremble both physically and mentally. At this moment, they felt like a drop in the ocean, insignificant. Lu Xingqian shouted, "Not good, the holy monkey is going to wake up, kill it quickly. Break for me." Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened, and with a hysterical roar, he broke free from the shackles of the pressure, and stabbed the Chang Shui towards the holy monkey's heart. The Sand Python Emperor shouted, "Monkey, quick!" Boom. Although the Sand Python Emperor didn't say it clearly, the Monkey King understood. The pressure of the War Master burst out, overwhelming Qin Feiyang. Immediately, Qin Feiyang was imprisoned again. "Are you done yet? Break!" Qin Feiyang roared and forcibly broke free from the shackles. The Chang Shui went straight to the holy monkey's heart. At this moment, the Chang Shui was only a finger away from the heart. It could be said that it was close at hand. But at this time, the Eagle King and the Lion King also released their pressure at the same time, and rushed towards Qin Feiyang like an avalanche. At the same time, the four beasts also used their own methods to kill the two, especially the venom that the Sand Python Emperor spat out. It made one's hair stand on end. Lu Xingqian anxiously roared, "Brother Qin, don't delay any longer, retreat quickly." The Monkey King and the other beasts would never allow them to kill the holy monkey. And once the holy monkey woke up, it would be their doomsday. Qin Feiyang's eyes were gloomy like water. They were right in front of him, but they couldn't kill the holy monkey. He didn't expect these four beasts to have such a tacit understanding. But the holy monkey must die. Break. He gritted his teeth, broke free from the shackles of the pressure, grabbed Lu Xingqian and the holy monkey, and entered the castle. Just as he entered the castle, the holy monkey's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and two cold beams of light shot out from his eyes. At the same time, there was a trace of confusion. "Boss, it's awake," Fatso exclaimed. Fatso and the others were already awakened when the Sand Python Emperor suddenly went berserk. At this moment, when they saw the holy monkey open its eyes, they all changed color. "Kill it even if it's awake." Qin Feiyang's eyes surged with murderous intent. Without the shackles of the pressure, Chang Shui was like a bolt of lightning, plunging into the holy monkey's heart. Fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. And the severe pain made the holy monkey wake up completely. It lowered its head and glanced at the dagger in its chest, before glancing at Fatty and the others. A shocking aura burst out from it. In an instant, it shrouded the entire castle. Puff! Fatso and the others trembled immediately, and blood spurted out from their mouths. The skin of Lin Yi, Luo Qianxue, Lu Hong and Fatso, who were the weakest, cracked like a spider web. Blood instantly dyed their bodies red. Chapter 489. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang was greatly shocked, because even he was imprisoned and could not move at all. Moreover, no matter how he struggled, he could not break free from the restraints of the pressure. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the holy monkey's strength was. Doing this was simply inviting a wolf into the house. The holy monkey suddenly raised its arm and grabbed Qin Feiyang's wrist. With a light pinch, the wrist was crushed with a crack. Qin Feiyang grimaced in pain. Next, the holy monkey pulled out the Chang Shui and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. The 10 pupils on its 5 heads were filled with a shocking ferocious light. Who is ruling this area now? However, Qin Feiyang's heart was filled with disbelief. Why was the holy monkey fine? Could it be that the blade did not pierce its heart? The holy monkey said, "Human, answer this holy monkey immediately." This holy monkey. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. According to historical records, 10,000 years ago, Only 9-star battle sages were qualified to be called Holy Monkey. Above the battle master was the battle sage. 1-star to 8-star battle sages could not be called Holy Monkey. In other words, the Holy Monkey was a 9-star battle sage. Qin Feiyang calmed his mind and said, "The one ruling this area now is the Great Qin Empire." Great Qin. The Holy Monkey's eyes suddenly flashed with a sharp light. How long has the Great Qin Empire been established? 10,000 years. Qin Feiyang said. So fast, 10,000 years have passed. But even with the passage of time, it can't change the nature of you humans. Cunning, despicable, shameless. The Holy Monkey said with a tone of resentment that could not be dispelled. But hearing these words, Qin Feiyang's heart directly set off stormy waves. The Holy Monkey was actually in existence from 10,000 years ago. This was too shocking. The Holy Monkey said, "Is Qin Batian still alive?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. The Holy Monkey knew about Qin Batian? One must know that even in the current Great Qin Empire, there were very few people who knew the name Qin Batian. This was because Qin Batian was none other than the name of the first emperor of the Great Qin Empire. However, the later generations all respectfully addressed him as the Qin Emperor. Only a few people from the emperor's bloodline still remembered his real name. Since the Holy Monkey called out this name as soon as it woke up, it was enough to show that the Holy Monkey and the first emperor knew each other. Moreover, there was a deep hatred between them. It seemed that the remnant of this Grand Canyon was really related to the first emperor. The monkey said, "Didn't you hear what I asked you?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "I don't know who Qin Batian is." "Don't know." The Holy Monkey looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and said contemptuously, "It seems that you are just a nobody. In that case, there is no need to keep you alive." It raised its large hand and slapped toward Qin Feiyang's head. Seeing this, Fatso and the others were anxious, but they couldn't even protect themselves, let alone rescue Qin Feiyang. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was about to be killed, the Holy Monkey suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and its body trembled violently. The pressure also disappeared. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. It must be that slash just now that hit the Holy Monkey's heart. However, because the Holy Monkey was too strong, it only began to react now. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity for him. Without any hesitation, he reached out with lightning speed and snatched Pale Snow from Sage Monkey's hands. Then, with a wave of his hand, he threw Sage Monkey out of the castle. Outside, the Monkey King and the other two beasts were furious. However, when they saw the Holy Monkey suddenly appear, the four beasts were overjoyed. They hurriedly surrounded it and said respectfully, "Greetings, Lord Holy Monkey." Puff. The Holy Monkey spat out another mouthful of blood. The Monkey King's pupils shrank and said hurriedly, "Lord Holy Monkey, what happened to you? Did Qin Feiyang do something to you?" "Who is Qin Feiyang?" The Holy Monkey was suspicious. The Monkey King said, "It's the human who was held hostage." "So his surname is Qin. Could he be a descendant of Qin Batian? And that secret room and dagger just now, they seem a little familiar." The Holy Monkey pondered and didn't seem to be worried about its injuries. The Monkey King said, "Lord Holy Monkey, please come with us to heal your injuries." The Holy Monkey looked around and asked doubtfully, "Who are you?" The Monkey King said respectfully, "Lord, I am your guardian. The black stone apes in this area are also protecting you." "I see." The Holy Monkey revealed a look of realization and looked at Theta Wang. "You are the guardians of the Holy Eagle, Holy Lion and Holy Python." "Yes." Eagle King and the other two beasts respectfully replied. The Monkey King said anxiously, "Lord Holy Monkey, if you have any questions, can you ask after your injuries are healed?" The Holy Monkey glanced at the canyon and said, "This Holy Monkey's heart was pierced by that human. It really needs to be repaired as soon as possible. Let's go." "Your heart was pierced." The four beasts were shocked. They hurriedly took the Holy Monkey and flew toward the cave where the Holy Monkey sealed itself. Inside the castle, as soon as the Holy Monkey was thrown out, Qin Feiyang and others collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. They all looked like they had just survived a disaster. After listening to the conversation between the Holy Monkey and the four beasts, Qin Feiyang let out a long breath. He got up and walked to Luo Qianxue and the others. He asked with concern, "Are you all okay?" "I'm fine." Luo Qianxue shook her head. However, as soon as she finished speaking, she fell to the ground. Bang! Lu Honglinyi and Fatso also fell down. Qin Feiyang's face changed, and he hurriedly checked the situation of the three. The pangolin and Lu Xingqian also quickly surrounded them. They were all battle emperors, so their situation would be better. As long as they took the healing pill in time, they would be fine. The pangolin asked, "How are they?" Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "It's not optimistic, but their lives are not in danger. They just fainted, but it's hard to say when they will wake up." The holy monkey's aura was too strong. Although it didn't make a move, the three of them were greatly injured. "Damn bastard." The pangolin cursed angrily. Lu Xingqian sighed. "This is already considered good. If the holy monkey had killed us as soon as he woke up, none of us would have survived today." Qin Feiyang nodded, then took out 6 healing pills and gave one to Lu Xingqian and the pangolin. He took one for himself. As for the other 3, he gave one to Fatso and the other 2. After Lu Xingqian took the healing pill, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Uncle Ren is definitely not here. Let's leave the canyon while the holy monkey is healing." "Leave?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Luo Qianxue and the others almost lost their lives because of this. If they left just like this, it would be too easy for this group of beasts. Lu Xingqian seemed to have seen through his thoughts and hurriedly said, "Brother Qin, now is not the time to be loyal." The pangolin also advised, "Yes, revenge is a dish best served cold. Don't be rash." "Then let's go." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and led Lu Xingqian out of the castle. Then he took out 2 ribs and handed one to Lu Xingqian, then rushed toward the black storm above. But along the way, his eyes were flickering. After a few breaths, the 2 entered the black storm one after another. His ribs recovered on their own, blocking the destructive storm outside. However, not long after entering the storm, Qin Feiyang suddenly stopped. "What's wrong?" Lu Xingqian was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, "I still have something to do. You leave first." "No. You heard what the holy monkey said just now. Stabbing its heart can't kill it at all. When its heart is repaired, you will only have a dead end," Lu Xingqian hurriedly said. "That's why I have to go." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He turned in the air and swooped down toward the canyon below. Why is this guy so stubborn? Lu Xingqian was a little annoyed. His eyes flickered, and he also turned and flew down. In fact, he didn't know that Qin Feiyang had a reason to go. If he guessed correctly, the holy monkey should be looking for that cluster of flames to repair its heart. And the heart, the sea of energy, and the sea of consciousness were the 3 most important parts of the human body. Since the heart could be repaired, the sea of consciousness should also be repaired. And this trip to the ruins, looking for Run Duxing, was only secondary. His main goal was to repair Wolf King's Sea of Consciousness. Therefore, he had to take a gamble. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang was like a stream of light, sweeping out of the black storm. He stood above the forest and scanned the area below. Previously, the Holy Monkey King didn't say where he was going to recuperate. Therefore, he didn't know where the cluster of flames was now. However, this wasn't a problem for him. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He raised his arm and pointed his index finger in the air. Ultimate. The formless energy transformed into a torrential torrent, surging violently as it whizzed downwards. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. The land within a radius of thousands of meters was instantly razed to the ground. Countless blackstone apes had lost their lives. Whoosh! Following closely, Qin Feiyang restrained his aura and swooped down. He hid in a large tree with luxuriant foliage and looked around. This move was to lure the snake out of its hole. Indeed. Not long after, 2 beast figures rushed out of the cave. Qin Feiyang noticed it immediately. They were the Monkey King and the Eagle King. It turned out that the flame was in the cave. However, he felt that it was strange. He had been to the cave before and didn't see any flames at all. Could it be that there was a secret door or something? Above the mountain peak, the Eagle King and the Monkey King looked down in all directions. The Monkey King said gloomily, It must be those two damned humans causing trouble again. Let them cause trouble then. When the holy monkey's heart is repaired, it will be their time of death. The Eagle King sneered. The Monkey King nodded and snorted. At that time, I'd like to see what other tricks they can play. The Eagle King said, go in and guard. I'll stay here to prevent them from sneaking in and disturbing Lord Holy Monkey. There's no need. Because even if they barge in, they won't be able to find the location of the flame. Furthermore, I can't wait for them to sneak in. Because that way, they will be like turtles in a jar and won't be able to escape. The Monkey King sneered coldly. Whoosh. The two beasts turned and rushed into the cave, disappearing. Qin Feiyang rushed out of the tree, glanced at the cave at the mountain peak, and rushed toward the mountain peak. At the same time, his eyes shone with a determined light. Chapter 490. Lu Xingqian did not appear. He stood in the black storm and watched Qin Feiyang enter the cave. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable brilliance. Inside the cave, Qin Feiyang walked slowly. His aura was completely restrained. His fiery battle aura gushed out from his palms, illuminating the surroundings. With the help of the fire, he carefully scanned the ground and walls on both sides, not letting go of any suspicious places. But he did not find anything along the way. If only the white-eyed wolf was here. Qin Feiyang could not help but sigh. The Wolf King's nose was very sensitive. It would be a piece of cake for it to track him down. A moment later, he came to the ice cave again. Because the holy monkey had left, the remaining ice had melted and turned into a stone cave of about 10 feet. Qin Feiyang searched for a while in the stone cave, but did not find anything like a secret door. He could not help but grumble in his heart. Where was this flame hidden? He went back the way he came, and his footsteps were even slower. When he reached a corner, a low rumble suddenly sounded in front of him. He hurriedly dispersed his fiery battle aura and hid in the darkness. He looked out and saw the wall 100 meters in front of him was cracking continuously. There it is. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he decisively entered the castle. The holy monkey had sealed itself for 10,000 years, and its cultivation was definitely not as strong as before. But after all, its foundation was still there. Its insight and sensitivity were also extraordinary. If he continued to stay in the secret passage, he might be discovered by it. Rumble. After the wall cracked open, a few beasts walked out. The leader was the holy monkey. Next was the Monkey King and the other two beasts. They all looked very respectful. As Holy Monkey walked outside, he asked, "Are those two humans still causing trouble outside?" "Yes." The Monkey King nodded. The Holy Monkey's eyes flashed with killing intent. "We can't let them leave the canyon alive. Later, you guys go and wait." "Lord Holy Monkey, I'm afraid it's useless for us to wait. Because they are alchemists and must have a lot of resources. They are not afraid of wasting time with us." The Monkey King said. "So what if they are alchemists? This saint doesn't believe that the resources they have are enough for them to reach the battle saint level. Besides, even if they are battle saints, they are nothing to worry about. Killing them is as easy as flipping my hand," Sage Monkey said domineeringly. He had heard of it. Monkey King and the other three also laughed. That was right. No matter how many resources there was a limit. And the amount of resources needed to cultivate from a battle emperor to a battle saint was unimaginable. In addition, with the Sage Monkey holding the fort, it would not be a problem to exhaust them to death. The Monkey King asked cautiously, "Lord Sacred Monkey, you have sealed yourself for 10,000 years. Has your cultivation dropped?" "Yes." The Sage Monkey nodded and said, "This sage's cultivation has already fallen to the level of a 2-star battle saint. Therefore, I must immediately go into seclusion and recover to my peak state as soon as possible." The Monkey King said, "Then you can go into seclusion here, lest those two humans disturb you." "No, the 4 of you won't be able to stop them. I will go into seclusion outside. As long as they come out, I will be able to detect them immediately." The monkey said. Lord Holy Monkey is wise. There was a look of worship in the eyes of the 4 beasts. When they walked out of the cave, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air, and quietly walked to the front of the wall. Flaming battle chi gushed out. It was as bright as day here. However, no matter how he looked, he could not find the seam. The entire wall was one piece. Who designed this? It's too perfect? Qin Feiyang muttered, frowning slightly, and began to look for the mechanism. This kind of secret door usually had a mechanism, but in the end he did not find the mechanism. How is this possible? He found it hard to accept in his heart and unwillingly began to search again. At the same time, outside, the sage monkey sat cross-legged on a large rock at the peak of the mountain, closing his eyes and meditating. The Monkey King and the other two beasts floated side by side at the edge of the mountain peak, scanning the forest below, their eyes flashing. In the forest, there was no movement at all. Qin Feiyang has already entered the cave. Quickly go and stop him, otherwise the flame will definitely be taken away by him. But suddenly, a voice rang in the minds of the sage monkey and the Monkey King at the same time. And the Monkey King and the other two beasts were extremely bewildered. The sage monkey also suddenly opened his eyes filled with shock. He suddenly stood up, scanned his surroundings and shouted, "Who are you? Please come out and meet me." One had to know. He was a war saint, and to be able to silently send a sound transmission to him, his strength was definitely not weak. Moreover, even Qin Feiyang knew that he had entered the cave, which meant that this person had been hiding nearby, paying attention to everything. The most important thing was that he was actually able to hide from its perception. This was unbelievable. But after waiting for a long time, the mysterious voice did not sound again. The sage monkey retracted his gaze, looked at the Monkey King and the other two beasts, and said in a deep voice, "Are there any other creatures or humans in this canyon?" "There is a human." The Monkey King and the other two beasts nodded. "Who?" The sage monkey's eyes suddenly burst out with a strong cold light. The Monkey King said, "His name is Ren Duxing. He entered the canyon a few decades ago." The sage monkey said angrily, "Why didn't you kill him? Could it be that his strength is stronger than yours?" The Monkey King shrunk his neck and hurriedly said, "When he entered the canyon, he was only a 7-star war emperor. We also wanted to kill him at that time, but we couldn't." "Why?" The sage monkey was puzzled. The Monkey King said, "He found the master's inheritance, and also obtained the master's inheritance." "What?" The sage monkey's eyes widened, full of disbelief, and his breathing became rapid. "Where is he? Bring this sage to see him immediately." "We don't know either. His whereabouts are erratic, unless he takes the initiative to appear, otherwise, it is impossible to find him." The Monkey King and the other two beasts shook their heads. The sage monkey said, "Then was the voice just now him?" "No." The four beasts shook their heads again. They were also puzzled in their hearts. If it was not Ren Duxing, who could it be? The sage monkey pondered for a while and said, "Don't worry about who this person is first. Sand Python, Fire Dragon, Lion, you two guard outside. Snow Eagle, Monkey, you two follow this sage into the cave." Whoosh. After saying that, the sage monkey flashed and rushed into the cave, its speed faster than lightning, as if it was teleporting. The Eagle King and the Monkey King hurriedly followed. The Sand Python King and the Lion King blocked the entrance of the cave. In the cave, Qin Feiyang stood in front of the wall, frowning. No matter how he looked, he could not find the mechanism. If there was no mechanism, then how did this secret door open? Suddenly, he thought of the Pill Pagoda. The door of the Pill Pagoda, as well as the stone door of the secret room where the heavenly thunder flame was placed, required the blood of the pagoda master to open. Could it be that this secret door also required the blood of the Monkey King to open? If that was the case, then it would be troublesome. And, suddenly, he turned his head to look at the end of the passage, and his face suddenly changed. Swish. In the next moment, he disappeared without a trace. The moment he disappeared, the holy monkey landed in front of the wall with a gloomy look in his eyes. Soon, the Eagle King and the Monkey King also rushed over. The Monkey King asked, "Lord Sage Monkey, have you found Qin Feiyang?" "No. But just now this sage saw a fire here. It should be him without a doubt. It seems that he has found the secret door." The sage monkey said. The Monkey King said angrily. He can even find this. Why is this human so difficult to deal with? The Eagle King said disdainfully. So what if he's difficult to deal with? This emperor doesn't believe that he can open this secret door. The Monkey King laughed coldly as well, and then he turned to look at the Saint Monkey and said, My lord, Qin Feiyang is probably hiding within that spatial treasure right now. Moreover, according to my observations, he's able to hear the commotion outside. Space treasure. The sage monkey's eyes flashed and said, This sage will cultivate here from now on. You guys can go out. Yes. The Monkey King and the Eagle King respectfully replied, then turned and quickly left. With Lord Sage Monkey personally guarding, Qin Feiyang wanting to escape was simply a dream. The Sage Monkey scanned the air and said, Qin Feiyang, come out, let's talk. Inside the castle, the pangolin looked at Qin Feiyang and said, You can't go out. The pressure of a battle sage was too strong. Once Qin Feiyang was imprisoned, he would not be able to enter the castle. At that time, only death would await. We have to go out. Because it is determined to guard us. If we don't go out, we will be trapped here alive. But there is one thing that I don't understand. How did they know that I was in the cave? Qin Feiyang frowned. The pangolin was surprised. Could it be that Lu Xingqian betrayed you? This? Qin Feiyang hesitated, not daring to jump to conclusions. Forget it, don't think about it, just go out and ask it. Swoosh. Qin Feiyang flashed, and appeared in the secret passage. The secret passage was so dark that one could not even see one's fingers. But Qin Feiyang could feel that the sage monkey was in front of him, because he could clearly feel the sage monkey's breathing and heartbeat. Buzz. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and flaming battle chi appeared, illuminating the place. Sure enough, the sage monkey stood 1 meter away from him, and looked at Qin Feiyang. If this sage wanted to kill you, you would be dead now. Qin Feiyang did not deny it, because what the sage monkey said was true. With the sage monkey's strength, it could kill him the moment he appeared. Qin Feiyang did not talk nonsense, and asked suspiciously, How did you know that I was in the cave? Don't worry about that. This sage only wants that space treasure of yours. As long as you give it to me with both hands, this sage will let you go. The sage monkey's eyes were full of greed. Qin Feiyang said lightly, If I wanted to leave, I would have left when your heart was repaired. The sage monkey was slightly stunned, and asked in confusion, Then why didn't you leave? Qin Feiyang said, I want to save a partner, I need the flame behind this secret passage. Partner? The sage monkey looked at him in surprise and mocked. I didn't expect you to be a sentimental and righteous human. If you let me in, I can give you other things, but the space treasure is absolutely impossible. Qin Feiyang completely ignored the sage monkey's mockery. Even this sage can't capture your space treasure, which means it's not an ordinary thing. Tell me, what else do you have that is more valuable? The sage monkey said. Qin Feiyang fell silent. To be honest, there was really nothing that could be compared with the ancient castle. Even Song Shui was probably inferior by a lot. But it was impossible for him to hand over the ancient castle. Chapter 491. The Holy Monkey chuckled and said, It seems that the negotiation is about to break down. Although the Holy Monkey's tone did not have any killing intent, Qin Feiyang's body tensed up and he entered the ancient castle without hesitation. Boom. However, the Holy Monkey seemed to have seen through his thoughts. Pressure emerged and instantly imprisoned Qin Feiyang. I heard from the Monkey King that you can break free from the battle sex restraint. This means that you are very capable. Why don't we make a bet? If you can break free from this saint's pressure, this saint will let you live. And as you wish, I will lend you my flame. The Holy Monkey said lightly, his eyes full of contempt. Qin Feiyang's face was as dark as water. The pressure of a battle sage was so terrifying that he could not even blink, let alone break free. Moreover, this was not the full extent of the Holy Monkey's pressure. If the Holy Monkey's pressure was fully unleashed, even the blood in his body would be imprisoned. However, this was his only chance. Break. He roared in his heart. The power in his body surged and the veins on his forehead bulged. His face was distorted, his teeth were bared, and his eyes were cracked. At this moment, he looked extremely ferocious. Can you do it or not? The holy monkey looked at him playfully. It loved the game of toying with people in the palm of its hand the most, especially when it saw the other party struggle, but was unable to change the outcome. In the end, he was drowned in helplessness and showed a look of despair. It felt very good. I can definitely do it. Qin Feiyang roared in his heart. The veins all over his body bulged and his eyes were red. Was he angry? It would be a lie to say that he was not angry. The holy monkey was high and mighty, and he relied on his strength to act like a tyrant. No matter who it was, they would be enraged. However, there was no point in being angry now. He could only break free and prove to the holy monkey that he, Qin Feiyang, was not a fish to be slaughtered. The veins on his forehead and neck had already torn his skin and revealed from his flesh. Many of his veins had even burst. Break for me. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang roared hysterically and took a step forward with his trembling right foot. What? The monkey was dumbfounded. The contempt from before disappeared in an instant and was replaced by shock. He could actually move. How was this possible? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? It rubbed its eyes hard and fixed its gaze on it again. Qin Feiyang had indeed moved a step. Its heart was instantly filled with perilous waves. Although it was only a 2-star battle saint, this human brat was only a 6-star battle emperor. There was a difference of more than 10 levels between them. However, he was still able to move under its pressure. Although it was only 1 step, it was already shocking enough. Looking at Qin Feiyang again, he was already drenched in sweat. Large beads of sweat mixed with his blood and dyed his entire body red. But looking at the monkey's current expression, he was very happy. Something's not right. Something must have gone wrong. The holy monkey sized up Qin Feiyang and stepped forward, tearing apart Qin Feiyang's clothes. Immediately, its gaze was locked onto the potential imprint on Qin Feiyang's chest. As expected, this human brat had unlocked the door of potential. But then, its body trembled violently. Its gaze had already moved away from the potential imprint and locked onto the concentric, not on Qin Feiyang's chest. How is this possible? It's actually the concentric knot. The holy monkey's 5 pairs of eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How does it know about the concentric knot? Qin Feiyang was bewildered. But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The mermaid clan was a species from 10,000 years ago, and the holy monkey was also in existence from 10,000 years ago. It didn't seem strange that it knew about the concentric knot. The holy monkey suddenly came back to its senses and hurriedly said, "Tell this holy monkey, where is the mermaid clan living now?" At the same time, the pressure loosened. However, it did not completely loosen. It was imprisoning Qin Feiyang. Immediately, Qin Feiyang panted heavily. When he regained his strength, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Why did the holy monkey look a little excited? Could it be that this damn monkey had some relationship with the mermaid clan? The holy monkey roared. Answer me quickly. Phew. He let out a long breath, looked up at the holy monkey, and asked with confusion in his eyes, "Isn't the mermaid clan a legend?" Don't play dumb with this holy monkey. The holy monkey suddenly became fierce. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, "I'm not playing dumb, I really don't know what the mermaid clan is." The holy monkey suppressed the anger in its heart and asked, "Then what's the concentric knot on your chest?" "This is the concentric knot." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "What's the concentric knot?" "Bastard, are you playing with me?" The holy monkey was furious, and its pressure skyrocketed. Qin Feiyang was once again firmly imprisoned in the void. Moreover, the pressure was even more terrifying than before. All the pores on his body were spurting blood. He couldn't even open his mouth to speak. He made a whimpering sound, his face full of innocence. Seeing this, the holy monkey was suspicious. Did this person really not know? Following closely, Qin Feiyang felt the pressure was weakening. Finally, he let out a long breath. If it weren't for the restraint of the pressure, he would have collapsed to the ground. It wasn't that he was spineless, but that the holy monkey's pressure was too terrifying. He had no power to resist at all. The holy monkey asked, "Then how did you get this concentric knot?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I don't know." One day 2 years ago, when I was training outside, I was plotted against by several enemies. I was seriously injured and fell into a coma. When I woke up, there was this mark. How is that possible? The holy monkey's eyes were full of doubts. Qin Feiyang said, "I'm telling the truth, please believe me." No matter whether the holy monkey and the mermaid clan were enemies or friends, he couldn't reveal the habitat of the mermaid clan. After all, this matter was too important. He didn't want the mermaid princess to be in danger. "Since you don't know anything, then there's no point in keeping you. Go to hell." The holy monkey was ferocious, and the pressure completely erupted. Qin Feiyang's whole body suddenly spurted blood. His body was about to explode. The heart-wrenching pain made him wish he was dead. Generally speaking, whether it was a human or a beast, they would cry out when they were in severe pain, because in this way, their emotions could be vented and the pain could be reduced. But now Qin Feiyang was firmly imprisoned by the pressure. Not to mention crying out, he couldn't even move his lower lip. Even if his body was torn apart, he could only bear it silently. His consciousness was also rapidly fading. "Am I going to die?" Qin Feiyang muttered to himself in his heart. He had never felt the aura of death like this. "I haven't returned to the capital to take back everything that belongs to me. Mother is still waiting for me. Uncle Yuan is also waiting for me. I'm really unwilling. I don't want to die. I can't die. I still have a lot of things to do. If I die now, everything will become a regret." Qin Feiyang's heart surged with a strong desire to survive. His blood also began to boil. Clang. All of a sudden, an ear-piercing sound exploded, as if a peerless divine sword was unsheathed. It almost tore one's eardrums apart. Qin Feiyang's Qiankuan pouch shot out a streak of light. It was none other than Chang Shui. But at this moment, Chang Shui was blooming with thousands of rays of light. At first glance, it looked like a peerless divine jade, exuding boundless light. Dagger. Seeing Chang Shui appear, the holy monkey's eyes suddenly emitted a green light. Its arm burst out and grabbed at Chang Shui. "No." Qin Feiyang roared, but he couldn't shout, let alone stop the holy monkey. He could only be anxious. But seeing that the holy monkey was about to grab Chang Shui automatically slashed in the air. A shocking scene appeared. A crack actually appeared in the void. Immediately after, Chang Shui unleashed a powerful divine might that swept up Qin Feiyang. Then he escaped into the void and disappeared without a trace. The crack in the void quickly closed as well. How could this be? The holy monkey looked at the void in front of it, dumbfounded. A peerless treasure. All of a sudden, it quivered, and its eyes couldn't help but tremble. It automatically protected its owner and recovered on its own. It could also easily cut open the void and escape with its owner. This was definitely a peerless treasure. Swoosh. It flashed a few times and rushed out of the secret passage. It stood in the air above the mountain peak and scanned the surroundings. The Monkey King and the four beasts looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Whoosh! The four beasts flew into the sky and hovered in front of the holy monkey. The Monkey King said respectfully, "Lord Holy Monkey, have you caught Qin Feiyang?" "Don't bother this holy monkey." The Monkey King shouted and carefully searched every place. Why was there no one? Could it be that the dagger had taken him and directly escaped from this canyon? Seeing this, the Monkey King and the four beasts were all puzzled. The Eagle King asked carefully, "Lord Holy Monkey, did something happen?" The Holy Monkey said, "Qin Feiyang escaped." "What? He can escape even like this? It shouldn't be." The four beasts were suspicious, but they didn't dare to show it. The Eagle King said, "Then what should we do now?" The Holy Monkey said, "He shouldn't have escaped from the canyon yet. Quickly go and look for him. Once you find any traces of him, immediately inform this holy monkey." Yes. The Monkey King and the four beasts responded respectfully and split into two groups, starting a carpet search. The dagger, the ancient castle, This holy monkey must get it. The holy monkey muttered, his 10 pupils filled with greed. Swish. Back to Qin Feiyang. Chang Shui brought him to a very unfamiliar place. This was a completely sealed stone room. It was about 100 feet in size, but there were no decorations. However, in the middle of the stone room, there was a cluster of palm-sized flames floating in the air. That flame was green all over, like jade, and it spewed out wisps of green brilliance. This green brilliance contained an extremely majestic life force. The entire stone room was also filled with rich life force. As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared, he didn't need to absorb it at all. The green brilliance automatically flowed into his body through the pores all over his body. The injuries on his body began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Where is this? Qin Feiyang was a little dazed. Such a place was simply a paradise for the injured. Flames. When he noticed the cluster of green flames, his expression was slightly stunned. And then a thought crawled into his mind. Chapter 492. The green flames flickered continuously, and the majestic vitality filled every corner. Qin Feiyang felt like he was dreaming. It didn't feel real. How did he get here? He looked down at the void in front of him. Chang Shui was suspended in the void. The light had faded, and its body was white and flawless. It could be called a masterpiece of the heavens. The more Qin Feiyang looked at it, the more surprised he became. He thought that Chang Shui was only sharp, but he didn't expect it to be able to revive itself, let alone travel through time. Traversing time and space, in his understanding, was simply a fantasy story. But now it was really happening to him. He reached out and grabbed Chang Shui, looking at it curiously for a moment. A wisp of red sword chi emerged and entered Chang Shui's body. But after a while, Chang Shui didn't react at all. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was a little stunned. Couldn't Chang Shui revive? But why couldn't it revive in his hands? Was his battle chi not enough? Thinking of this, he increased the output of his battle chi. But it still didn't work. He was very unwilling to give up and switch to flaming battle chi. But Chang Shui still didn't move at all. I don't believe it. Qin Feiyang's stubbornness showed. He mobilized the purple gold dragon chi, but it still didn't work. In the end, he mobilized all 3 types of battle chi and sent them to Chang Shui. However, Chang Shui was like a stubborn stone. It didn't even move, let alone revive. How can it be revived? He couldn't help but frown. Then he closed his eyes and sensed carefully. Gradually, he found that Chang Shui was indeed absorbing his battle chi. But Chang Shui was like a bottomless pit that couldn't be filled. Sensing this, Qin Feiyang had a bold guess in his heart. It should be that his current cultivation wasn't enough. In other words, his cultivation and battle chi hadn't reached the conditions to revive Chang Shui. Regardless of whether this guess was true or not, Qin Feiyang didn't dwell on this problem anymore. He put away Chang Shui and walked towards the flame. When he came to the flame, the vitality was even stronger. Strange. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Was this a kind of alchemy fire? But if it was alchemy fire, it should emit high temperature. But now, the flame had no temperature. Unless it have an owner. But it was also impossible because only alchemists who had condensed mental strength could sign a blood contract with alchemy fire. Of the Monkey King was obviously not an alchemy master. Which meant that it was definitely an alchemy. More importantly, when he was in the Imperial Palace, he had read a lot of books and knew a lot of things. However, this was the first time he had heard of such a strange flame. He lowered his head and looked at himself in bewilderment. His eyes were full of shock. Previously, the pressure from the sacred monkey had almost killed him. But in such a short period of time, his injuries had already healed. Its ability to heal injuries was actually several times stronger than the healing pill. He couldn't help but get excited. Maybe this flame could really repair Wolf King's broken sea of consciousness. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate. With a thought, the unconscious Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Then, Qin Feiyang held Wolf King and approached the flame. That majestic vitality immediately surged into Wolf King's body. Qin Feiyang sank his mind into Wolf King's sea of consciousness, looking quite nervous. There were a total of 3 cracks on Wolf King's sea of consciousness. Although they weren't very obvious, they were enough to be fatal. And now, Ren Duxing couldn't be found, so this flame was his only hope. If even the flame couldn't repair it, then Wolf King was really hopeless. Time passed breath by breath. About 100 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang suddenly found that the cracks on Wolf King's sea of consciousness began to heal little by little. It was effective. This discovery made Qin Feiyang wild with joy. At the same time, he felt even more incredulous. Even the sea of consciousness could be repaired. What kind of divine object was this cluster of flames? The sea of consciousness was the same as the sea of qi. Before it was opened, it was a completely sealed dark area. A person's soul was in the sea of consciousness. But the difference was that the sea of qi could be opened when breaking through the War King. However, according to legends, the sea of consciousness could only be opened when one broke through to the War God realm. Because of this, before breaking through to the War God realm, one couldn't see their soul form. And the soul was very fragile. The existence of the sea of consciousness was to protect the soul. If the sea of consciousness was broken, then the soul would lose its protective shell, and the person would fall into an endless sleep. For example, if Wolf King didn't repair his sea of consciousness, he would never wake up. In the end, his vitality would dry up and he would die in his sleep. At the same time, the pangolin in the castle was also like an ant on a hot pan, restless and uneasy. Although Wolf King often bullied it, and although it always wanted to step on Wolf King, it still had some feelings for him after being together for so long. Now that it was related to Wolf King's life and death, it couldn't help but worry. About half an hour later, one of the 3 cracks in Wolf King's sea of consciousness had been repaired. There were only 2 left. Soon, Qin Feiyang was extremely excited. Even his eyes were a little wet, because Wolf King was the first person he met, and he had accompanied him all the way until now. After experiencing countless life and death situations, he was already Qin Feiyang's family. It was really rare to meet such a companion in one's life, so he cherished him very much. In the sky above the mountain peak, the sacred monkey's eyes were hazy. Just where did this human run off to? Qin Feiyang is in the stone room right now. I'm afraid he will steal the flame of life. Go and stop him. Suddenly, that mysterious voice sounded in the sacred monkey's mind again. What? The sacred monkey's expression changed. He was in the stone room? How did he get in? The sacred monkey suddenly raised its head and looked around, roaring. Who the hell are you? But that mysterious voice disappeared again. Bastard! The sacred monkey was mad. It turned around and rushed into the cave. When it arrived in front of the wall, without saying a word, it directly cut its finger. A drop of blood flowed out and fell on the wall. Boom! At that moment, accompanied by a low rumbling sound, a crack appeared on the wall that had been integrated into the wall. And Qin Feiyang, who was standing beside the flame, abruptly turned his head to look behind him. When he saw that the wall was cracking, he immediately turned pale with fright. Damn human, you are really inside. The sacred monkey's roar sounded. Damn it! Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. It was this damn monkey again. No. Why would the sacred monkey say that he was really inside? All of a sudden, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. He hurriedly retracted his gaze and scanned the stone room. For the sacred monkey to say such words, it was enough to show that the sacred monkey had received the news in advance. But no one knew that he had entered the stone room. Then there was only one possibility. There should be someone hiding in the stone room, monitoring his whereabouts. But the stone room was only so big. If there was really someone, it wouldn't be able to hide from his perception. Moreover, he searched the entire stone room and didn't find anyone. Could it be? His gaze trembled. He thought of another possibility. Could the other party have a space treasure like the ancient castle? If that was the case, then it wasn't good. Rumble. The sound of the secret door opening woke Qin Feiyang up. He turned his head and his expression changed. Because the secret door had opened half a foot wide. The sacred monkey stood outside the door, staring at Qin Feiyang. Today, don't think about escaping. Boom. A terrifying pressure rushed into the stone room from the crack of the door. Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate at all. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the flame in his palm. Seeing this, the sacred monkey suddenly bared its teeth and exploded with killing intent. It threw a punch at the secret door. But this full-force punch didn't break the secret door. How is it possible? Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw this scene. His eyes were full of shock. Could this secret door be made of some kind of divine iron? But there was no time to think because the pressure had come. Thank you. He grinned at the holy monkey and instantly disappeared without a trace. Damn bastard. Come out and fight if you have the guts. Don't hide. When the door was enough for one person to pass through, the sacred monkey immediately rushed into the stone room and roared. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang ignored the sacred monkey's roar. He let go of his hand, and the flame immediately rose into the air. The amazing vitality suddenly filled the entire ancient castle. The unconscious Fatso, Lu Hong, Lin Yi, and Luo Qianshua's injuries also began to heal faster. What a huge amount of vitality! The pangolin's eyes trembled as it looked at the flame in disbelief. Qin Feiyang's eyes were locked on the nether devil flame. If the nether devil flame recovered automatically and swallowed this cluster of flame, it meant that this flame was indeed alchemy fire. But after dozens of breaths, the nether devil flame didn't move at all. It doesn't seem to be alchemy fire, Qin Feiyang whispered. He looked down at the flame and frowned. The pangolin asked, Qin Feiyang, what the hell is this? Qin Feiyang said, if I knew, I wouldn't have such a headache. But no matter what it is, as long as it can save the white-eyed wolf, it's fine. In my opinion, this is definitely a treasure. The pangolin's eyes lit up, and his saliva flowed out. It looked like he couldn't wait to swallow the flame into his stomach. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, I'm telling you, don't even think about this flame. This flame could not only repair the heart, but also the sea of consciousness. It was absolutely priceless. Don't worry, I won't. The pangolin shook his head again and again, but no one knew what he was thinking. Time flew by. Another half an hour passed. Fatso, Lu Hong, Lin Yi, and Luo Qianxua woke up one after another. When they saw the flame, the four of them were surprised. There was only one crack left in Wolf King's sea of consciousness that hadn't been repaired yet. Outside the stone room, the sacred monkey had been squatting and didn't leave half a step. This time, it was determined to fight Qin Feiyang to the end. After a long wait, the third crack in Wolf King's sea of consciousness finally healed. Boom. Following that, his aura suddenly erupted and continued to climb. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang and the others retreated to the side and looked at each other. After a few breaths, Wolf King's aura soared to a 6-star combat emperor. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Wasn't he in a deep sleep? Why did he start to break through before waking up? Fatso said sourly, I can only say that Brother Wolf is too awesome. He's going to defy the heavens. The pangolin was also envious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.